did you at one point go, oh, I was actually radicalized and I just didn't realize it?
I mean, the grooming process took like 6 weeks. It wasn't long at all. I need to keep an eye on what's going on my 13-year-old's iPad. The first time I realised I was groomed was when...
So you go to this, like, residence for women?
You're not allowed your phone on you. Only set people. You know, like they had the poster people.
You got ISIS influencers.
Yeah, yes.
Your start to radicalization, it sort of began with you looking at the cause of the Palestinians. Are you at all worried now? There's another Gaza conflict. It seems like it's just a gold mine for a recruiter. So you ran away from your life in the UK and you joined ISIS. London traffic is bad, but what was so horrible that you'd run off and join ISIS?
I mean, now I know, I guess, looking back, that you've got a real big point there. I think the main thing to point out is that at the time when the grooming, because I was groomed on the internet, I didn't just wake up one day and decide I'm going to go and live there. I don't think anybody would do that. There is a process of grooming, and a lot of people that are over there now or have been there went through that process. And with regards to grooming, it takes, like, not just anybody can be, like, maybe it wouldn't work on you.
Yeah,
the person has to be quite vulnerable, maybe. Yeah, let's hope. And I had been going through and was going through, like, really bad domestic violence at the time, and my marriage was breaking down. It was on, it was off. I was just really, really in a bad place, and my ex-husband had gone, like, on holiday to his home country.
Yeah,
and
let's actually back up a little bit, because I would like to unpack some of this, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I don't know if people say that here. Tell me about growing up, because it seems like you had a fairly normal Spice Girls infused childhood.
Yeah, so growing up, we had, like, normal childhood. There were, like, probably bickerings in the house, nothing majorly out of the ordinary. I had a really normal upbringing, loving the Spice Girls, and we weren't raised... I am from a Muslim family, but we were not raised strict at all. So yeah, I guess my upbringing was just normal,
Like
with whatever
secular,
normal means. Yeah, absolutely.
Muslim kind of thing. Like, you didn't have your hair covered and all that
No,
stuff.
none of that. I'm not from a family that really... I don't think imposes is the right word, but that would be my choice if I wanted to, like... No one would ever suggest it from the family, if that makes sense.
Sure,
So
yeah.
we were pretty free, actually, the way we were raised. And I'm from a mixed background as well. So half of my family are Christian, half of them are Muslim. So my mom is a revert to Islam. She wasn't always a Muslim. So I think that's another reason why we were raised so, I don't know, in a different kind of way, really. Like, because my mom, she's a revert, and half of my family are Christian, so I think that's the reason for the whole...
I get it. We're Christmas tree Jews.
Yeah, well,
so
oh, really?
It's like, hey, you're Jewish, I guess. What are you doing for Christmas? Dude, you said you were Jewish. I don't really even know what that means. You know, like, ethnically this, but Christmas tree, it's cheaper, it's easier. It's
We always used to have a Christmas tree as well,
That's
as
funny.
a child.
You're a Christmas
Always
tree
have a
Muslim.
Christmas tree,
That's a new
literally.
That's new. And so you get married, but this guy is not the same type of background, I'm guessing.
No, it's not that he was strict Muslim either. He was he had problems with addictions. He was incredibly violent, and our problems were around that. So when I met him, I was at university studying to be a doctor. Like, I had great ambitions, intelligent girl, there's nothing I couldn't do, springing my step, all of them kind of things. Met this man, and that's just when it all went downhill, really, because we were the polar opposites. I had a thirst for life. I want to be a doctor. I want to travel the world. I want to do all of that. Where he's, like, fighting addiction, and he's... it wasn't as bad when we first met each other, like drinking, and then it just got really, really worse.
It got worse as your relationship progressed.
And we were just polar opposites, but I was quite younger than him. I think when I met him, I was like 20.
Oh, wow.
He was like 28, 29. So it is quite a big age gap when you think just fresh from being a teenager, early, like, he's pushing 30. So I know that's still young, but, you know, mentally.
Well, but if you think about it,
Yeah.
he was 8 years older than you.
Yeah.
And 8 years before your that age at that time, you would have been 12.
So a
like,
child, really, yeah.
Right. It's a little, yeah.
And I don't know, I think I was maybe a bit immature back then, or, you know,
Everyone's
whatever.
immature at 20. I'll side with you on that one.
So we were really different in that sense. And I ended up dropping out of uni because, number one, I just couldn't do it with the violence that I was going through, because if you think about it, training to be a doctor, it's hard work. It requires attention, focus, dedication. And, you know, when you've been up, like, all night fighting and, like, you just don't want to be... I couldn't focus, so I dropped out of university. And then my life became just staying in the house, doing nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean I had no life. I had no friends. I wasn't allowed friends. At one point, I didn't even have a phone because I wasn't allowed a phone.
Oh,
Yeah, I
man.
used to go to the phone box opposite where we lived to ring my mom. It got really, really...
Like a payphone where you put a card in?
Yeah, a payphone. Well, it
Oh
was
my
money
God.
at the time. I don't think they
I
work
see.
like that in England anymore.
Yeah, I haven't even seen a payphone in the United States. A working one, I should say, for
I
like a
don't know
decade.
if they work in England,
Yeah.
but back then they did. So I would sporadically ring my mom like every few days. And I remember speaking to my mom and she was like, Tareena, like, I'm really worried about you. I watched the news and they found a woman dead in the flat in Birmingham and she was like, I thought it was you. I was just waiting to hear for your call. So things got really bad. That's just to give you an idea of how bad things were.
That's when your mom is wondering if you're the dead girl who turned up. I'm surprised they didn't come and get you.
Well, you see, my mom, right, my dad would have, but we had kept a lot of things away from my dad. I was all heart in for this man. I would have died for this man. I loved him so
might have
much.
almost done that.
I was obsessed with him.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know why. I cannot think now, being out of that circle all these years later, having gone through everything, I can't think of why. I was besotted with him, smitten.
What a good word.
Absolutely,
Besotted.
yeah.
Never
So
heard that.
I think that's what led to my downfall, really. That's what led to the destruction, was the way that I loved him, really.
Yeah, I can look. I think a lot of people who've been victims of violence, domestic violence, can probably relate to that. It's almost like cult vibes. Like there's brainwashing involved because people who are not brainwashed or people who are in their right mind at the time don't stick around when somebody beats them up when they get home drunk after work or whatever the situation is. Nobody sticks around for that unless there's coercive stuff going on. So you dropped out of university, but also you started, I don't want to say you became more Muslim because that's not really the case. He enforced more conservative ways of life on you. Is that a good way to put it?
Yes, I guess that would be fair to say. So pre-marriage, I didn't wear hijab, which is the headscarf, the Muslim headscarf that we should wear. That was... He didn't force me, but he was like, I want you to wear, like, we're married now, you're a married woman, you should probably cover your hair. So I did. There will have been a part of me that wanted to as well, but it was more because I was married, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started covering my head. It wasn't that I started focusing more on the religion at that point. That happened towards maybe a year or two later. I just used to probably dress like that. And the rules that he had on me, I couldn't go out with my friends, or I couldn't just hang out or anything like that. So it was... And that's not necessarily an Islamic thing, but it was...
It's a possessive guy thing.
A possessive guy thing, and that's where we were, really. That's how my life changed when I married him.
It's safe to say you were fighting all the time with this guy as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, my God. Every day. Every day. So I was... I didn't work for a while because I was never allowed to, but I was depressed in that house. No phone, no friends, nothing that I could do. And I remember once just thinking, right, I'm going to get a job because this is not me. I'm ambitious. I'm intelligent. I need to be doing something. So I just said to him one day, I was like, look, I'm going to look for a job. And he was like, whatever. Found a job as a rehabilitation support worker for people who've got acquired brain injuries. Brilliant. I could have progressed majorly. I could have gone on to be a mental health nurse. I couldn't keep the job. I went to work with a black eye. I went to work with my arm, cut open, gashed. They had to, wrap my arm up. And one day, the owner, she called me and she was like, Tareena, I can imagine what's going on. I just want you to know that we're here for you, and, it's not right. And, she tried to do the motherly thing and tried to help me out. But, I never left. I couldn't continue in that job. It's a very demanding job. The people are not well. They've got acquired brain injuries. I'm turning up every day with a thick lip. It's not fair on them either to see me like that. So I just said, look, I physically can't do it. I mentally can't do it. I was driving to work, and the police would be ringing me because the neighbours have rang them saying, where are you, Miss Shakil? We've arrested your husband. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm just on the way to work, leading kind of Brie Vanderkamp kind of double life kind of thing.
Wow.
Oh, I'm just parking up to go into work right now, but I don't want to. Oh, but when you finish work, you need to come and give a statement. I was at war in my head. I couldn't.
Wow.
So I left that job as well.
That's a crazy way to live. Like, your life is insane at this point. You have your facade of
Very insane.
normalcy,
Yeah,
and underneath that, you're going to the police station to give a statement about your husband having beat you up the night
absolutely.
before. That's crazy to hear.
So I was pretty much living a double life in front of family. I never wanted them to know like what was going on, especially my dad, because my dad would have
Killed the guy.
he
Yeah.
would have like
Yeah.
done whatever he had to do, right?
Mhm.
So there's, yes, I'm okay, yes, but why haven't you got a phone? Oh, I just don't want a phone. Oh, you've lost a lot of weight. Are you sure you're not anorexic? No, I'm fine. I just don't eat for 3 days because I can't, because I'm sick, but I can't say that to them. So I think the pressure just got too much to me. I couldn't work. I just became a hermit.
Yeah.
Just the best place for me was at home, wasting
Yeah.
away in that moment. So
And in 2014, you correct me if I get my timeline wrong. It seems like the marriage, does it end in 2014, or he just decides he's going to Yemen for some reason?
So basically, I had a child, right,
Mhm.
with him, and I remember saying before I gave birth, look, I'm not putting up with this anymore. You're not going to come home and I'm not putting a child through that.
Oh,
You will
good
be
for you.
gone. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that when I drink. I was in a homeless hostel when I was pregnant because he had attacked me whilst pregnant. It was wild.
Oh, dangerous.
It was very dangerous. So I went to a homeless hostel. They found me a house to live. Like pressure from like his mom and everything like that. Like, oh, come on, you can have a child. You can't be a single mom and all of them things. I was scared. I hadn't had a child before. So I was like, right, okay.
You're 21 at this point?
No, at this point, I was probably like 23, 24.
Okay.
So still very young, really.
Yeah.
Allowed him to come back. But it got worse. Like, he started to, like, grab weapons that he had never done before. And I remember the night everything changed. We used to have 2 living rooms, the living room where you enter the house and then the back living room. But then there was a stair that led upstairs, but a door, like, so you'd have to go through the door to get upstairs. Obviously, my child was upstairs sleeping. I let him in because if I didn't, he'd be shouting on the street. We lived in a grove, quiet. I'm embarrassed. He's shouting all kinds of disgusting things about me. So I just let him in to save the peace. And I remember him, like, in the kitchen. All I could hear was like knives and forks, the cutlery drawer.
Yeah, that's scary.
I looked at the door and I thought, oh my God, my son's upstairs. So I just pushed with all my might the sofa in front of the door. And I remember as I'm doing it, thinking to myself, you will never get back in this house again. This is the last straw. Like, you won't do this again. So the police must have been called. They took him away. After that, he had never come back, as it were. To say we were on and off, like, probably a little bit. Like, he would probably come in the house for a little bit, but he would never stay overnight. We were finished and all of that. He went to Yemen in, I think it was June or July of 2014.
Okay.
And then he was like, come with me, let's try, it'll be different in Yemen. We can start again.
Yeah, I can imagine women's rights in Yemen are slightly downgraded compared to the UK.
Yeah, well, I think what he was trying to say was like, obviously you can't drink in Yemen, so I won't be the same kind of person,
I'm
of
sure
thing.
you still can, if you really, really want to.
I think he was just trying to clutch it. He never really ever wanted to let me go, so he was trying to clutch at it.
Yikes.
So,
I said, God you didn't go to Yemen. Oh
no,
my
well,
God.
my dad wouldn't let me go as well.
Okay.
So my dad was like, no, you're not going to Yemen, Tareena, never. Are you going to Yemen? I don't care.
Where's your dad's family originally?
So I'm mixed race, white and Pakistani. My dad's Pakistani. So he's like, you're not ever going to Yemen. And side note, like, my sister is married to someone who's Iraqi. And my dad at first was like, you're never going to Iraq. But she went and it was okay. So I think my dad is just really protective like that anyway.
Yemen's a little bit unstable, even compared to Iraq these days.
So dad was always against that. And I think it was the right thing not to do anyway, just because, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he went to Yemen, and it was originally supposed to be for 6 weeks. He went with his family. And I remember seeing the ticket and the return date. He never came back on the return date. Family did. He never did. So I'm like, oh, hold on. What's going on here? No one knew when he was coming back. And we had sporadic conversation over the phone, i.e., are you okay? How's my son? He missed his son's first birthday, all of them things. Sorry, pardon me. So, the conversation was sporadic. And he just basically was like, I've got married again. I'm not coming back. All of this stuff.
That's a choice.
Yeah. So he hadn't. It was lies.
Oh.
Yeah, he was lying. He was like, no, move on with your life, you silly cow, and all these kind of evil stuff that he was saying. I'm never coming back.
Silly
and
cow is really a
it
stupid.
was worse. I
Okay,
just
okay,
milked
I
that
was
one
like,
down.
man,
No, he went in.
guy's
He went
not
like,
very
he went
imaginative.
in. He
Okay.
went in. It wasn't a joke. So like he's in Yemen now, right? I need to bring it back. So whilst he's in Yemen, I don't know how to word this. Let's say there was something going on in the Middle East, a bit similar to what's happening now, right? And this is in 2014, and everyone was protesting, fundraising, all of them things. Okay,
I see. So was this another Gaza thing?
Situation,
Okay.
right? In 2014, and so I was never allowed on Facebook whilst being married or any social media, and so husband's in Yemen. And I remember at the time seeing my neighbour, and she'd just come back from like a fundraising thing for Gaza, and I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know about any of these things ever." And she was like, "Yeah, it was on Facebook. I found out about it,
Right.
and from there I reactivated Facebook."
I see.
Yeah, and I started coming across like profiles of like guys who were dressed all in black and holding like, I don't know, maybe a gun or something like that. So I initially thought that they were in Palestine. So one of them, I sent them a message to be like, look, praying for you, hope you're okay. Because, I know it's a tricky topic at the minute, but we've always kind of like stood for Palestine and kind of like protested and donated aid and things like that for years. So, I sent him a message and I was like, look, I hope you're okay, praying for you. And he was like, thank you, but I'm not in Gaza. I was like, so where are you then? And he said, we're in Syria. I had no idea what was happening in Syria.
Right, okay.
So I was like, right, what's going on in Syria? And he was literally like, well, you don't know, like, knock, knock, like, duh, are you dumb? Because, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to say who watches the news at like 23, 24, like kind of thing.
I mean, you're not wrong, especially if you don't have social media. Nothing's coming into your feed. You're watching, I don't know, whatever reality TV shows you can get your
Keeping Up with Kardashians, was obsessed with it. Desperate Housewives, obsessed.
Yeah, it doesn't, not a lot of Gaza and ISIS stuff shows up in the Kardashians.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen it in there. So, the conversation started from there. But why I mentioned that then is because he basically started off by saying, look, we've established the Islamic State. It's haram for you to live in a country where it's not ruled by Sharia, blah, blah. I'll get into this, like, greater a bit down the line. And so, like, the conversation started like that. But at the same time, I had my ex-husband saying, like, oh, I'm not coming back. I'm starting a new life here. And as petty as this sounds, I'm not ashamed to admit this as a fully grown woman now. Literally, a big part of my reasoning for even continuing to talk with that person was, right, okay, you can start a new life as well somewhere else. I will also do that. I know how that sounds. My heart stops when I relay that, but that's me being honest.
Yeah.
That's my immaturity at that time. That was I'm destroyed here because of you. I missed out on loads of life why am I stuttering? I missed out on loads of life opportunities because of him. Being a doctor, being an air hostess on Emirates. My mum's got Australian roots, immigrating to Australia, rehabilitation support worker, all of these things. Like, I'm essentially nothing now. I wasn't nothing, but like how I had seen it. Like, I could be so much and I'm nothing now because of you. Oh, when you go to Yemen and get married. Okay, so is that how this ends? Well, guess what, buddy? You're not the only one that can go and live over. I know.
Yeah.
Literally.
Now, everybody listening is like, this girl is the dumbest person alive.
And
However,
I am a realist. I will, like, it is. That is exactly what it is. But I'm just trying to explain my train of thought behind it.
Yeah.
Because how do you get someone who's, like, really westernized, been raised in England, not from a strict family, to go there? It's 100 miles an hour.
It's true. I will say, if you'd never really heard much about Syria and you'd never been to a place like Syria, no, you really didn't know what you were getting into at that point in time.
I've never been anywhere like that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Okay, so I started to read things online. speak to this guy and like watch blogs from people who were there. But I had never been anywhere like that. And reading things online is very different to being there. Yeah. I remember the first time, and I will never forget it, that I seen that black flag in real life. We were on a bus going from one part of Syria to another.
We'll get there.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Let's hold off because I am curious what that reaction was like. But I want to say it's quite funny that you're looking at, I guess, Facebook or Instagram, and you see the guys with the black flags or whatever, and it's almost like do you use the term thirst trap here in the UK?
Definitely.
It's like an ISIS thirst trap that this guy had going.
So interesting that you should say that, because when I none the wiser, everything happened, came back to England, whatever. But on trial, one of my legal team said, you do know that this guy, because I give them his name and everything, you do know that this guy is responsible for like hundreds of girls running away from Europe.
Really?
And I was like, what? That's my friend. You know, in my head, not probably now when I had escaped, but I'm like, no, but that was my friend. That's like, he was my friend. What do you mean? He got like, and she's like, no, this man's name has cropped up in hundreds of cases. That was the first time I realized I had been groomed.
Right, he was a recruiter for ISIS.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how it goes. Young, handsome man on the internet, speaking to women, get them to come over here. You know, basically that's what it was, what you've just said.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. It is.
But it was an effective strategy, right? They dress this guy up, they take photos of him, and then they just sit him in front of, or they get him, I don't know, an unlimited plan on his phone, and he's sitting there DMing 12
Loads
girls a day,
of
or
people,
20 girls a day. What do I, 100? Wow. But within a few weeks, he's kind of won you over, right? Because you change your Facebook. I've seen in your documentary, there's like an ISIS flag and maybe a photo of you wearing, is it a burqa?
That
or
wasn't
is that just
me.
a
That's
stock
just
photo?
a picture from Google Images of a woman with like beautiful green eyes and like her face covered. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But that was what I did change the display picture to.
At that point, surely you've seen other information about Islamic State. Did you think, oh, this is fake? Or was like the chaos a little bit of an interesting part of the deal?
I think for me, it was more just about like, I felt like I had to be there. I felt like I had to get there to live there, because our conversation between me and this guy had become about how if you don't come to live here, you'll go to hell because you don't live in a country that's has Sharia law. And in the beginning, I did say, well, I've got family that live in Saudi Arabia. I've got family that live in other Muslim countries. I'll go and live there. And he's like, no place on this earth has Sharia law apart from here. And I'll never forget what he said. I used to ask him a lot of questions, and he was like, look, sister, you are the only one that asks this many questions. I'm just going to put it so simple to you. Right now, staying in England, your body is like levitating over the fire of hell. That is it. And were you to die, you would drop into that. I have had nightmares, even in prison, even out of prison. It's a recurring dream that happens where I'm levitating over like lava. I started to have that nightmare.
Sure.
And it's like, I think the last time I had it was probably like last year. It's still something that's there in my head.
Right.
So the conversation took that narrative of, you have to be here. And by the way, only the special Muslims get to make it here. And then they relay certain hadith and certain verses from the Quran that are taken out of context and go in line with what he says. Like, it's that verse, like, you can't just pluck a verse out of a book and say, well, Jordan, this is what happens. It's in context. It needs to be in its entirety, you know?
Sure.
I can pluck a bit out of any book and be like, look, this is what it says, but hold on, did you read the whole thing? So,
but you weren't a scholar of the Quran
no, absolutely
at that point
not.
in time.
No, not at all. And
so he just weaponized it against you.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing was, like, he was a revert. He was from a Catholic family. And throughout our conversations, he would always make me feel like stupid, if that makes sense. Because he was like, you were raised in Islam, sister. Like, how am I teaching you your religion?
Well,
like,
because fanatical converts are the ones who know the most about this stuff typically anyways.
Well,
at least in terms of propaganda.
I think at that moment, I just felt stupid. Because I was like, you know what, he's right. How don't I know what he's saying when he was like raised Catholic and just has been Muslim for like, I don't know, maybe 1 year or two. Like, I'm probably not a good Muslim. So like, I kind of believed what he had said a little bit.
Well, he set himself up as an authority in order to exert that authority over
yeah. We would speak every time he had internet. Like, I found myself worrying if like he didn't have, like, he didn't have internet because I was like, is he okay? Like, I thought of him as a friend,
Sure.
literal friend. And he did make some insinuation about getting married when I got there. I didn't want to marry him, so I had blocked him before I ended up traveling over there. I got like the numbers of the people that I needed to get that would
Sure.
get me over there, whatever.
This guy, by the way, he was a European, right?
He was Portuguese, yeah.
And he had left Portugal and gone to Syria.
Yes. So he came to London to be a footballer. He was a really, really, really good footballer. And I think, I don't know, he made friends in London ended up becoming Muslim in London, I believe. And I think that's where it happened for him, really, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure that MI5 is on top of that one, finding out how this guy got radicalized in London.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure he wasn't the only one that it happened to.
No,
I'm
of
sure there's
course not.
probably loads of people that
Of
it
course
happened
not.
to. So, yeah.
Wow. So you tell your family, I'm going on a beach holiday in Turkey with my son, and they're like, okay, have fun. And then how does it go from there? You flew to Turkey.
So I flew to Turkey. I booked like a 1-week holiday. Now, what I will say is, it was never 100% sure that I would run away to Syria. Yes, I travelled with that in mind. Yes, I booked Turkey with that in mind. But I was saying to myself all along, I'm just going to see how this goes, how far it goes. Because remember, only the best of Muslims make it here, yeah? So you have to be special to make it there.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not. Many people got arrested on the way. I don't know if people died on the way.
I was wondering about that. I was wondering how because it's a militarized border. They're not
Yeah.
just like, oh, all right, yeah, Syria, it's right over there.
So they've got people that like patrol the border on the Turkey side, so they would know. Because look, the border is hundreds of miles long, right? It's
Right.
not possible to probably monitor the whole 100 miles. I think there are
Right.
checkpoints in certain places, but some of it, as with every border, I mean, you can just probably walk over,
farmland or
yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Farmland, desert. It was pure desert. That's
Yeah,
what
desert.
it was. So I travelled to Turkey with the idea that is where you cross over to Syria. But I was like, you know what? Let me see. But I want to mention before, because it's important. The night before, so I went on a Monday to Turkey. The night before I travelled, I went back home to Birmingham. I don't know, to like see the house for the last time or to like get a few things, because I had been staying at my mum's, because remember, ex-husband's in Yemen. Well, husband's in whatever is in Yemen.
Current slash
Yeah,
ex-husband.
current / whatever
Yeah.
he is. I don't know. I don't care. It's complicated. Is in Yemen. So I was staying at my mum's. So I went back to get like a few things, say goodbye to the house, and I will never forget. I sent him a message, my ex-husband, and I said to him, look, this is your final chance to tell me now. Are you coming back? Yes or no? I don't want to play games. I didn't say, because I'm thinking of running away to Syria. I didn't say anything like that. But I was saying, look, are you being serious? Are you married? Do you not care about your son like you said? Because I would say things like, what about your son? Are you not going to come home? Oh, my son will grow to be a man. He'll find me. And all of them kind of things. Yeah, heart-wrenching things. And I basically got a message of profanity back saying, move on with your life, basically, amongst all these swear words. I'm never coming back. I don't ever want to see your face again. And I was like, are you sure about that? Okay, obviously I cannot continue with what I want to say, i.e. you will never see us again. He's like, yeah, who cares about you? Whoever cared about you? And
Still abusing you from Yemen.
literally. But I
Yeah.
just want to say that the God honest truth is, had he have said in their messages, I'm coming back on Thursday, because he was coming back that Thursday. Ironically, the day I crossed over the border into Syria, like the day before, is the day that he came back. So he knew when we had this exchange that his ticket was booked and he was coming back on the Thursday or
He just wanted
Friday.
to piss you
He
off.
just wanted to be nasty and horrible.
Yeah.
Had he have said in
Class
that
act.
moment, look, I'm coming back, God honest truth, I would never have travelled into Syria. You would have we wouldn't be sitting here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's it's mad. It's
How close it all came. I mean, it not close. It did happen. So, okay, so you flew into Antalya, Turkey, then to, I'm going to get this wrong, it's called Gaziantep or something like that?
from Antalya to Istanbul. From Istanbul, you have a number to ring of a guy. So it's a chain of events. It's not one person who you're in constant contact with. Get to Antalya, ring this number. He tells you to fly to Istanbul. Get to Istanbul, ring this number. He gives you another number. Fly to Gaziantep. When you're in Gaziantep, ring this guy. And it's just a chain of events. So yeah,
It's
Antalya,
like a
Istanbul.
security thing, yeah?
Of course,
Okay.
because there's no like, they don't run a check on you. You could be anybody.
That's
You
a
know?
good point. That's a good point.
But ended up in Gaziantep, southern Turkey, which is inevitably one of the places where they used to cross people over from. The other place was called Stanley Ertha, but we ended up in Gaziantep.
Okay, so and what's in Gaziantep? There's like a safe house?
It was a safe house,
Okay.
yes. Just like a 3 or 4 story kind of like broken down house, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
With, I don't know, 3rd floor, all men, 4th floor, women. Obviously, I was in the room with the women. A lot of Russians.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like Chechen guys or something?
Chechen, Dagestani, Russian.
Dagestan, okay.
Where else were people from? Like Uzbekistan.
Okay.
You know, places like that. South America, Caribbean.
Really?
Yeah.
How random is that? How do you go from the Caribbean to join ISIS?
That woman
you're from
had
the UK and did it, so I guess
that woman had such an interesting story. The one from the Caribbean.
Oh, it was a woman.
Well, because I was in the room with her, so she had gone with her husband, and you're going to think this is mad, but I met loads of people whose stories are like, you know, I said to you, like, well, I was in 2 minds whether to go. And if my husband had have texted back, so many people there had that same story. Not the exact same, but like, yeah, kind of just like, because my husband wanted to, and I just like came and I didn't really question. And you would think now, hello? But there were so many women. I met people with extraordinary stories, and she was one of them. She was like, I don't even know if I'm like properly Muslim. Like I was raised, it's mad. I know. Wow. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow. And they're all going to Syria.
Yes.
Was anybody really ready for it, or was everybody kind of like, yeah, I don't really know what to expect, but I think it's going to be great?
I think like not a lot of people spoke English. So the people that I could speak to that spoke English, I think there was one family who was, they had, a lot of people had people there that had already gone. People like myself that didn't have anybody there were few and far between. So to them, it was like, this is the best thing because they've had like their family tell them how it's good and they're going to be with family.
Right.
Seldom did people totally leave everything behind like I did and go and be on their own there.
So they must have thought you were the weirdo, actually, right?
Do you know, I had this conversation with somebody when we first entered into Syria, a girl that spoke English, and she said, sister, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I am in awe of you. And I was like, why? She said, like, to be on your own. I don't fathom that. I can't understand that. Like, I'm here with she was there with her 2 sisters. Her sister's husband was there. His brother, they had a whole family there. Sure. She was like, I couldn't do this on my own. Like, I respect you. And I was like, I've never seen it like that, but okay, thank you, kind of thing. Sure.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it is. I've traveled alone abroad, certainly not to Syria, and people are like, wow, I can't believe you did that. So I have like a 10% understanding of that. Like, oh, you went to this whole country and set up a life on your own as a young person. Yeah, I didn't do it in a war zone. And I didn't do it with my kids at all. And it's hard. I can't even go to the grocery store with my kids. So I have to say you did that, regardless of where you went, it is impressive in which sort of every sense of the word that you did manage to do it with a child. It would have been so annoying to do that with my kids, to say the least. So how old are you at this point? Like 26 years old?
No,
25?
24. Branching
okay.
On 25, should we say.
Okay. And then I'm not going to ask about your son because he doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about today. I'm just noting that you had him with you.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm going to leave that there.
Yeah.
Because, well, there's already going to be comments about this. We don't need to encourage.
We don't need to ignite the fire.
Exactly. How long were you in Syria?
8 weeks.
Okay. Wow. That must have been 8 long weeks. What is it like there? Well, actually, let me back up. You're in the safe house in Gaziantep. How do you get into Syria? Like you said, the border's sort of protected, sort of unprotected. What is that like?
Basically, like a truck came and got us all together and drove us like, I don't know, 40 minutes, should we say, to deserted farmland. Desert, right?
Rocks and dirt kind of
literally
deal?
Sandy,
wow.
Pure desert. And then they were like, get off, run. So we and showed us the direction to run in. So we ran in that direction for, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 seconds. There was another guy waiting. Run that way. There was another guy waiting. Run that way. And then like when you'd ran for, I probably ran for like 3 minutes, no more than 5. On the other side, there's like, you know, one of them trucks that's open back. The back is open. I don't know what the name of that vehicle
is. Like a pickup truck?
Pickup truck, yes. And we just mounted the back of that pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
And when everyone had crossed the border, they drove us to this first
It's always
safe
a Toyota
house.
Hilux, by the way.
Well, I mean,
they love those things. I don't know what the deal is. It's like ISIS buys us half of them.
I didn't notice the vehicle of the truck because I think my adrenaline was just running wild at that moment. So we mounted the back of this truck, and that was that's I now I'm thinking about it. I remember exactly how I felt in that moment, getting on the back of that truck. To find the words, it would be like numb. Oh, okay, I made it. What am I doing here? But this is what you wanted, though, wasn't it? Wild, like a circus in here. And when I say a circus, I don't mean it's all fun and games. Like, it's going wild in here. I probably didn't have the words to say in them moments because it's like, Tareena, this is real now.
Yeah.
This is real. Up until then, it had been speaking with people on the internet. It had been watching things on the internet. That's not real.
Right.
I'm in England watching this. It's real when I'm here. And I was like, as mad as this sounds, and there will probably be loads of things that I say that sound mad, I was like, to me, it was kind of like an adventure.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it.
And I was like, oh, mission complete. Wild. But it's like, made it here. Oh, only the best Muslims make it here. Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh my God.
It's mad. But at the same time, like, what have I done? Family. My God. War zone. But at that time, I hadn't seen bombing or whatever because you're on the outskirts. And it's like mixed emotions within myself. If you were with me in that moment, I probably couldn't have spoken to you. I didn't have the words. And then there was a training camp of like fighters, and they were like doing martial arts. That was the first time I seen it in real life. And I don't want to use the words in awe because that insinuates that I was like looking at something and really happy, but dumbfounded. Like, okay, you are the people that I've watched on the internet for the grooming process took like 6 weeks. It wasn't long at all, but it became a big part of my life. It was like every day.
Watching them do the jump through the fire hoop. That's the thing I always laugh at. I'm like, what skill is this where you're jumping through a hula hoop that's on fire?
But you never know when you're going to have to jump through a hula hoop that's on fire, do you?
That's right. You never know when they're going to have one of those in a war zone.
All jokes aside, right, have you ever met someone famous that you're like,
sure, like, oh, this person in real life. Yeah, you live in LA, you're like, oh my God, there's Val Kilmer.
Of course, not that they were famous, but it's like, oh, okay, this is you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in that moment, frozen.
Mm-hmm. Like a starstruck, but for ISIS.
Well, not starstruck as in like if I seen Jennifer Lopez, my heart would hit the deck.
Sure.
I would fall over and be bright red. So like none of that happened, but just it's not like starstruck. It's like, wow, you guys are real.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's real.
You guys are really here.
Wow. Okay, so you see, and then you roll into, was it Raqqa? Is that where they take you at first? No,
we spent like a week and a half in a place called Drablus, which is maybe, I don't know, an hour and a half away from Raqqa.
Okay.
After like an hour, a year and a half, after a week and a half, it felt like a year and a half, like a van came and took the people that weren't married into Raqqa, because most of the women, as I said, that were there had family already that were there that would come and get them and take them off to live wherever. So I went on a bus with, I don't know, maybe 20 other girls to Raqqa.
That's quite a few people.
Yeah. Well, in the house that we went from on the bus, there was 150 people living there.
Wow.
It was like a farm, a Syrian farm.
150 people?
Yeah. So there's like one place here, then another big house here. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Loads of women. Yeah. Loads.
Holy
loads.
moly. Okay, so you go to this like residence for women, for lack of a better word?
Yes. Makar. They refer to it as the Makar.
Okay. What are the rules of this place?
Right. So you're not allowed your phone on you. You know, like
for security reasons.
well, you could be anybody, and it. You know,
Sure.
a lot of the media that came out of there was controlled. You couldn't just start tweeting from Syria. You'd get into a lot of trouble like that.
Okay.
Only set people could. You know, like they had the poster people. I don't know in America if they had like
You got ISIS influencers.
yeah, yes.
But like real like yeah.
In England, there were
spokespeople.
like 2 or 3 people who were like there that England knew were there that were like quite famous for running away there, and they had like a platform and, like you say, like ISIS influencer. Like I don't know another way to describe it, but they had special permission to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
They have to like couldn't just go on Facebook and be like, "Hi, Tareena Shakil here, loving it." No, and that's one of the reasons why when I was in Syria, there's no social media posts from me at all. News coverage, yes, loads of it, but posts from me on Twitter, Facebook, nothing. None of them were logged into at all because you can't. So yeah, phone's taken off you. You're not allowed to just go out and about when you want. No,
Because you're a single woman, is that why?
I mean, I guess you just don't go out and about.
Okay.
It's not done.
But men can do it, right?
Around Raqqa, but none of the fighters could. And I always found this interesting. I don't know why. An ISIS fighter could not just get on the bus from Raqqa and go to the next city. You have to have something called waraka. Waraka means paper, which is permission to travel from the person who's in charge of Raqqa. So everything is controlled. Women, a lot, yes. Men, to a degree. All of it controlled, men and women.
Well, yeah, it's a security state.
Of course it is, because, you know, we don't know who you are. We don't know what you've seen. We don't know what your intentions are. And what I will say is, women like myself who had come from England, France, America, you know, countries that were part of the coalition that were bombing ISIS, like they were the enemy of ISIS. So people like myself who come from a country that was in the coalition were always treated differently. Always some level of scrutiny. Always watched that bit more. Always, I don't know, like kind of like whispering behind your back kind of thing. People who would, I mean, I was with people from Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. You know, they were a lot freer than we were.
Sure.
Because it's like, okay, like you're probably not a spy if you're from them countries.
Right.
I don't know what the rationale
Yeah,
was.
there was
but
like a 10% worry that you were actually
yeah,
a spy.
absolutely. Like it's okay, cool. I noticed that the girls like myself, like they would just question a little bit harder. Oh, so share your story with me. How come you're here? Because like I said before, there's no check. You don't apply for a visa to go there.
Right.
You know, anybody can go there. How do they know I'm not a spy? And particularly like with my involvement with the media, I just had all eyes on me at all instances, really, because it's like, who are you? Who is this girl? Big question mark over my head. All of these.
Did your parents know that you're in Syria at this point? How
Right.
did they find out?
So, you were not supposed to tell your parents anything.
Okay.
I was with people in Syria whose parents thought they were in Turkey, whose parents thought they were in Morocco.
Like on a long trip.
Well, yeah, or just
had
like
moved
working.
there.
I'm just working in Turkey, like whatever.
I see.
I'm traveling through Turkey. I'm backpacking. You know, it's not untoward. People do them kind of things.
Yeah, of course.
But me, you know, I'm from a really close family. I don't want to start crying. Our family is built on love.
Yeah.
All we have is each other, as in mom, dad, sister, 2 brothers. We just have each other, right? We're a unit. We fight together. We die together, kind of thing. So I first sent the first message when I was in Gaziantep to say to my dad, look, I'm not coming back. He thought I was joking because, look, you would never
I'm having such a great time. I'm never coming home. Not what I mean, Dad.
Literally,
Not
I was
what
like, Dad, I said I'm going to Syria. I said that to my dad. And he was like, right, whatever. We'll see you when you're back. When you come back.
hilarious.
Like, because he
Right.
wouldn't think that, nobody would think that about me.
No.
You just wouldn't. I've never had them interests. There's nothing extremist in my past, or even since I've come back, there's nothing there.
Well, he's thinking, oh, my daughter who watches the Kardashians is joining ISIS. All right, have a fun trip, honey. We'll see you when you get home.
100%. That's what he was like. You're so funny, whatever. Like, we'll see you when you get back. Literally, to the point where even the day before I came back,
Yikes.
the day before I was supposed to come back, which was the following Monday, I was in Syria and they were messaging me saying, we're leaving for the airport now.
Oh, that's sad.
Heartbreaking. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not happy with myself about. There are a few things like that that happened. I hate myself for that. Let's be honest about that. Cruel, horrible. It is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Man, what was their reaction when they realized that you actually...
So as a precautionary measure, they had rang the police when I had just entered Syria. Because my dad was like, look, at this point, I don't know if she's actually joking or like... She's going along with it a bit too much now. Like, because if something's a joke, you just say it once, right? And you have a laugh about it. But when they carry on asking me and it's the next day, it's like, no, Dad, I told you I'm not coming back. So he had called the police already. But they still had that hope in their heart that I was joking with them to the point where, yeah, we're leaving for the airport the day before. You know, because they still, I guess they were holding on to the fact that it was a joke.
Right, sure.
You know, because you don't do that, Tareena.
Right. Oh,
Our daughter doesn't do that. Our sister doesn't do that. You're coming home. We know you are. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God. So when did they realize that you had actually left and joined?
So I think the moment they knew it was real was when I wasn't on the flight.
Right.
Like I didn't come back that day.
So then they called the cops and they're like, okay,
they had called the cops already. Like because I remember I told them from Gaziantep I'm going into Syria, and then like he messaged me the next day. I was like, I'm in Syria, and yeah.
But they called the police back like, hey, she missed her flight. Maybe she wasn't joking about the thing I reported yesterday.
Because it was such a serious complaint not complaint, serious. They reported something serious. The police were in constant dialogue with them. So I think on Monday they were like, look, yeah, if she really hasn't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that. What is Raqqa like? You're stuck in the house, so I'm assuming you didn't witness any violence or anything like this.
No, I haven't witnessed like any heads on spikes, dead bodies or anything like that. No.
Because on TV at this point, you know, we in the West we're seeing ISIS beheadings. They murdered that pilot by lighting him on fire in the cage.
I mean, that had happened when I had come back.
I see.
But,
okay.
Yeah. There was a lot of violence in Syria that the world had seen. Whilst I was there, I didn't see anything like that.
At the time that you were over there, ISIS had even beheaded a couple Brits, actually, by that time. A journalist, I think. And I know that the attacks on the West happened after you left already. But I'm guessing were you aware of, like, hey, they beheaded this journalist, but he was a British guy. Like, you must have known that had happened, but thought,
I mean, yeah, well, I think it had happened before I had gone.
Yeah.
And I spoke to the Portuguese guy and I said, look, come on, like, this is what we're seeing on the news. What's going on here? The narrative was always, do not let them distract you. Like, don't you know, the media hates Islam. Like, they don't want us to have Sharia. They will do anything to kind of stop you from coming here. So it was kind of said like, look, it's not real.
I see. So they were arguing, hey, this is fake.
Yeah,
fake news.
Yeah, it's fake. And at the same time, look, Tareena, don't get sidetracked. They will do these tactics. They say anything to make Muslims look bad in the news. Look, you're a British girl. You know how it goes. The media is the enemy of Islam, kind of thing. And then he would go on to say, well, do you know how they killed the Muslims in so-and-so? And do you know how they killed the Muslims in Afghanistan? And, you know, kind of like bringing it back. Like, do you know how Bashar al-Assad slaughters the Muslims over here? Do you know what he does to their children? And kind of like as a distraction technique. Well, what they do is worse, or, you know, even if it was real kind of thing. So you kind of, that's horrific, right? Beheading somebody, regardless. But the speech and like the dialogue you have with this person kind of makes you think, put it to the back burner, if that makes sense.
Sure. So he distracts you from it and says, even if it is real, which it might not be, they're doing worse things. Look at Assad use chemical weapons on people.
I mean, there were horrific stories that come from Syria about how Bashar al-Assad tortures the people, and you know they are heart-wrenching stories.
Yeah,
and
he's a bastard. There's no.
He's evil. You know. And I didn't know about them things until speaking to this guy. I didn't know. I didn't watch the news. So he'd be like, well, read this about this. And you read harrowing things that even are inflicted upon children to the point where at one point, like, I genuinely thought, thank God you guys are there.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Because it was like, well, we're here to liberate the Syrian people from Bashar al-Assad, but at the same time, we're setting up Sharia. So, like, it's a win-win kind of thing. So there was a point where I thought, my God, thank God you guys are there. Like, you're saving the Syrian people, thank God. You know, and so part of the thinking was like that. You know, so you kind of seen them as the good guys as much as the whole world knows what they are, and that they're this evil group that do things that is not Islamic and like that are so against Islam. Most Muslims hate ISIS.
Yeah, of course.
Passionately.
Mhm.
I have Muslims that troll me. That
I'm
troll
sure.
me.
Yeah.
That are like, and you think, dude, understand it. We must, like, you need to understand, like, the concept of it. But no, they go in. They go in. So I think a part of the narrative was for you to resonate with them. Oh, thank God we need you there.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say at that point, were you kind of turned against the culture of the West, or was there something else going on?
For me, it's never been about, like, against the culture of the West or anything like that. It was more about...
It's hard to undo the programming you get from the Kardashians. That's a lot. That's a lot to... You can't really undo that. It's there forever.
It's
Geordie Shore is forever.
Geordie Shore's forever. And
Yeah.
that, you know, we'll always be watching them kind of things.
That's right.
But for me, honestly, it was about making hijrah. Hijrah is migration for the purpose of Islam. It was, I need to save myself from the fire. If we live in this country, we're going to hell. And at the same time, you know what? Remember, I need revenge on my ex-husband as well, my husband as well. So it was loads of things. It wasn't just this one. Never have hated England. Never. For what?
Mhm.
We're free here.
Well, that's what everybody's wondering. Like, she left this great place.
Absolutely.
I
get that.
Shithole.
I get that. I get that. Trust me, I do. I have never hated my country, ever. We are free here. You can be Muslim here, you can be Sikh, you can be Hindu, you can be Jewish, you don't have to believe in a God, and it's fine. Because you have that opportunity here. And that, you know, we've always loved that. It's a great country, you know. I've never hated England, but that's been put to me a few times, like, oh, you must have hated England. Never. And there was one time when living in the house in Syria, in Raqqa, I almost got into, like, a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble, because I remember it. There was this spiral staircase, and, like, everyone was just sitting down eating, and I was walking down the staircase, and there was the woman that used to look after the house. There was two women, one that was in charge of the whole house, and one woman from Saudi Arabia that was in charge of the women inside the house.
I see.
If that makes sense. So there's two, one from Morocco, one from Saudi. Mm-hmm. We spent all of our time with the one from Saudi. She was in charge of us. And I just came walking down the stairs one day, and the woman from Saudi, she said, as a joke, like, here she is, the Queen of England, like, how nice of you to come and, like, join us or whatever, because they were, like, fascinated by my accent, and they said, you sound like the Queen, like, you know, all of them kind of things. So she was like, the Queen has finally joined us, you know, taking the piss kind of thing. And I said, no, she then went on to say, oh, but don't worry, we will get your throne back, blah, 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 we'll take over England one day. She said something like that. Then I said, you will never take over England? Like, that was my literal response. I said, you know, my actual words were back here, England. Back here means it will remain. When I tell you the room went silent.
Wow, crickets.
Literally went silent, turned round, and she's kind of like, what did you say? And I was like, oh, God. Like, I shouldn't have said that kind of thing, you know. So, yeah. Never hated England. Almost got into big trouble because of that.
Yeah.
Whilst over there, but yeah.
When did things get kind of? When was it like, oh, this is dangerous. This place is dangerous.
I wanted and was supposed to escape after, like, a week of being in Raqqa. There was a group of girls that escaped before me.
They just ran out of the house? How did that happen?
Basically, what happened was, I would wake in the middle of the night to go to the toilet. And for 3 nights, the same group of girls were sat there talking in the hallway, and every time I walked past, they were quiet. One of the girls I had become very good friends with, a girl from Qatar, lovely girl. She was not best friend, but, like, I just spent a lot of time with her. So on one of the days, I said to her, look, I see you there every night. What's going on? And she said, listen, please don't tell anybody, but we are planning to escape. Like, at night time, come and sit with us. So there was, like, her 3 other girls. And on the 4th night, I went to sit with them, and they were like, how are we going to do it? And I said, you guys are meeting up this is what you guys are talking about. She's like, yes, don't tell anyone, because we would have been killed. So the German girl said that she knew of a guy that was an ISIS fighter that probably could have helped her, and the plan was flimsy. Jump over the wall.
Yeah.
The plan was to jump over the wall and...
Of the house.
Of the house, yeah, because we lived in, like... It was a mansion. The governor of Raqqa used to live there, but he obviously fled when ISIS took over. So this is like probably a $10 million house kind of thing in a fortress. So their plan was to jump over the wall and potentially take refuge with this ISIS fighter who... And I'm thinking, how can you put your trust in... The plan was flimsy. They were going to sleep rough.
Say the least.
I said, look, I am dying to leave this place, but remember, I've got my child with me.
Oh, yeah.
I can't, like, if I didn't have my child, I would have jumped over the wall with them. I said, look, I've put him in enough danger as it is already. I need something more than we're going to just sleep rough. And how do you know the ISIS fighter's not going to turn his back on you?
Sleep rough means what, outside?
Like outside, yeah. Like, we'll just find somewhere to sleep. And then, look, I've already messed up majorly. I can't do that. I need something more than, I kind of know of a brother that... Well, what if he, like, goes back on you? What if he...
Yeah.
What if you can't trust him?
So the guy who joined ISIS and he's giving his life for ISIS,
Absolutely.
You think he's going to smuggle you out of there?
Of course. So they jumped over... So the next day, the women of the house, the Saudi Arabian woman, went to, like, the doctors. They went on, like, a big trip. Remember, you cannot just leave the house on your own. So the sisters went with the kids. They, like... I didn't witness it take place, but they must have jumped over the wall, right? And they said, look, when they come back, cover for us. I said, okay. I said my goodbyes to them. They went. And after like some hours of the Saudi Arabian returning, she was like, where's whatever from Germany? And the whole house started looking for them. This was after like hours. And they were like, Britannia, like Mother of England. Let's say that's what they called me. Because you're not allowed to tell people your name there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what do they call you?
Yeah, because everyone you're not allowed to give your real name there.
Really? What? That's kind of strange.
It kind of is, but it's like, okay, if I escaped and got arrested like I did, yeah? So now I can't tell you the Saudi Arabian woman's real name.
Right, that's true.
I don't know her real name. She is Khalid Al Saudi. That's it. So I can't go back to my country and give an account of her.
Because you didn't have a phone.
No, at all. So do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like for the purpose of anonymity. And she was like, Britannia, you were the last, like, you're a really good friend with her. Where is she? And I was like, I don't know. Knowing damn well they've gone. She was enraged. She was like, oh my God, we'll find them. Anyway, they never did. But I was supposed to escape with them girls. I was just like... biding my time after that to try and find the way to escape.
Yeah.
Because I need to leave this place. I can't be here. So how it happened was, I had stayed there for... Sorry.
Let me pause for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
You said in a BBC interview that there were two girls who were like, unruly is the word you used. What was the deal with them? So
one of them was an Algerian girl from France and one of them was a Dagestani. When I say unruly, like... It's not unruly. It was, they were probably missing home. They didn't want to be, they wanted to be left alone. She wanted her phone. This is the Algerian woman. She was just like, I don't want to eat with everybody. I just want to be on my own. And then they were like, no, you need to come and sit with everybody. What are you doing there? And like that kind of behavior was determined unruly. So she got into a fight with I think it was a Saudi Arabian woman there because she had tried to attack her and hit her. And I remember trying to stop that fight. But after a day or two, I don't know, they just got fed up with this Algerian French girl and a van of ISIS fighters came in the house and just took her away.
Oh my God.
Literally, yeah.
Do you have any idea what happened to them?
I don't know. And the same thing happened to the girl from Dagestan. They were they beat her badly in the house. Badly. And then the next day it was just right, you're going. Never seen them again.
Oh man. What do you think happened to them?
I mean, at the very least, they would have been taken to prison. Were they killed? I mean, I don't know. But at the very least, they would have been taken to prison.
That must have been really scary.
That was really scary. And when you think about it as well, at the same time, like I'm trying to escape as well.
Yeah, so you're
You know,
like,
so I'm like,
oh, I'm not going to mouth off to that Saudi woman, but I am going to jump over the wall with a child and
literally,
trying to escape,
100%.
which is way worse.
So I
Yeah.
was just trying to like find the way. I can't jump over the wall with a child. That
No.
couldn't have happened.
No, of course.
So I was waiting for something, and at the same time, like continuously praying, and at the same time I can't tell my family as well, look, I don't want to be here because like there's all these stories going on in the media, like I can't trust anybody. How do I know it's not going to happen that you're going to tell the media? Like, you're getting me into big trouble here. You think it's cool that you're giving these stories to the media, but you're putting pressure on me here. Like, the Saudi Arabian woman is infatuated with me. Like, she just wants to, like, be with me all the time. Oh, because you're the girl from England. You know, it's weird.
So there's stories about you in the international
throughout my
media.
whole time in Syria, like almost daily, the
So
British
you're
media.
like a famous tabloid.
Literally, I met people in
Yikes.
England in prison that were in Syria at the same time as me that came up to me and was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting you. I was like, who are you? She's like, yeah, we lived in Syria at the same time.
Oh, gosh.
Weird, mad, crazy,
Yeah.
like out of this world.
So you're like the it girl of ISIS, I think is one of the titles that I saw when I was prepping the show.
Really, the it girl of
Not
ISIS.
a bad title. Not a bad title.
I mean, yeah, I could. They weren't like me there.
Yeah. I know that unmarried women who join the caliphate are supposed to get married off right away to fighters. Like, that's why you had to be in that house or whatever. You mentioned that they were, what's the right word? Like, they were there was like a matchmaking situation going on. What was that all about?
So basically, as soon as you got to the house in Raqqa, you would give your preference, i.e., what languages should they be able to speak? What country do you originally come from? What country would you like to marry?
How long do you want the beard to be?
They didn't ask about the beard, right?
Kidding.
But maybe they wanted to add that question on. No, all jokes aside, questions like, you know, what languages do you speak? What languages do you want them to speak? What country do you want them to be from? And we will try to match you up as close as we can. They just kind of wrote it down on a piece of paper.
So it's like English, the end. I mean, what? I'm curious what your preferences were.
I don't even. What are my preferences are made up to go along with the damn thing. I think I just look, well, someone that speaks English.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's
someone that's
weird.
gonna let me go back to England.
Yeah,
you know?
like somebody who loves traveling. They're like, no, we don't really have that here.
Someone who wants to go back to their home country.
Yeah. Oof. Oh my God. So are they introducing you to these like ISIS fighters? What are these guys like?
So I did have a meeting with an individual. You have a few minutes to speak to this person. You can't really get a good feel for them. So in the room, it's me, that man, and the guy who's the matchmaking guy and his wife, but they will sit with their back to us.
They're just making sure that you don't like do anything inappropriate.
Well, that's an Islamic thing anyway. Like even now, like if you wanted to date, you would not just go on your own, because that's just the rule that we're supposed to follow.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every Muslim follows that rule, but that you're supposed to do that.
Okay.
You're not supposed to be alone, as it were, with someone who you're not married to. People uphold that, people don't, but that's the ruling. So yeah, they were there for that, to like minimize that, being alone with somebody. And you just have like 5 minutes, maybe not more than that,
really,
to speak to this person,
to make sure that they're not. I mean, like, what are you supposed to decide in that 5 minutes?
If you want to marry them,
what are they telling? Like, make sure. What are you even supposed to ascertain?
I can't even remember what I spoke about.
Oh my gosh, 5 minutes.
I can't even remember what I spoke about in that moment.
Some people think that you got married there because you were allowed to leave the women's residence, and I know that you're like, oh gosh, but why do people think that? Because you were allowed to leave the
it's not that I was allowed to leave it. She sent me to go and get internet, because the story is the Saudi Arabian woman, she was never supposed to be there forever. She had a guy who I think he was Kurdish that she wanted to marry.
Okay.
But because she was Arabic, they wanted her to marry someone Arabic. They didn't want her to like go off with this Kurdish man. So they were not allowing her to get married there.
The Kurds fought ISIS, but were there Kurds in ISIS too?
There were a lot of Kurds. It was the Peshmerga Kurds that fought against ISIS. But yeah, of course, there were a lot of Kurdish people who were there. And they were just not letting her marry the guy. I think she had dialogue with him before she came to Syria or whatever. She just knew who she wanted to marry. It wasn't a matchmaking service for her. I think she had ran away for that person. Like, basically, she had started speaking to him while she was in Saudi. He was already there fighting. So I don't know if they fell in love online or something like that. But she had met him, decided she wanted to marry him. She was coming there for him. They were not allowing that to happen. This woman was a shadow of her former self. Like, she was in despair. She wasn't leaving the room or anything like that. Now, when we first got there, we weren't allowed to have our phones on us. The girls that kept hold of the phones had got married and gone off. I became to know where the phones were because I was someone who was there for like weeks. Girls got married and went within days of being there. So I was like a consistent figure kind of thing.
Built seniority up really fast.
Yeah, like she was familiar with me. She didn't. Everyone else, she has to get to know them all over again. But me, it's like, oh, I know you. You've been here for I don't know how many. Well, I stayed there in entirety for like 8 weeks. But yeah, you've been here for a good 4 or 5 weeks, whatever. I know you. So I came to know where the phones were because like she was Canadian or whatever. She got married and I knew where the phones were. Anyway, the Saudi Arabian woman, like as I said, she just went back into her shell. She wasn't leaving her room and she asked me to go and get internet for her one day. Now, how it worked in Syria was if you live close to a internet cafe, you just go and buy a code and you just connect to their webpage and put the code in and you've got internet. So she wanted internet. She sent me the first time and when I was walking to the internet shop, I seen the Caribbean woman's daughter, the one that I crossed over into Syria with. I seen her daughter and I was like, oh my God, like, where's your mom? Like, this is a miraculous thing that I bumped into them, sent from heaven, because I said to you before, she was very vocal about like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Like, I don't want to be here kind of thing. But she went with her husband. She was heavily pregnant. Her heart it was different for her. She had her love who was there in her heart. I understand that. He's her husband from her home country. They love each other. So it's not mind over matter for her because she loves this guy. Anyway, she's like, look, I don't know if I want to be here. She was saying all of these things from Jarabulus. When I left Jarabulus, she didn't come to Raqqa because she was married. Yeah. So we parted ways there. I gave her my number in Jarabulus, but I never heard from her. And like I said, I just seen her daughter in the park and I was like, oh my God, where is your mom? Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Her mom was sitting on the bench. And the first thing I said to her was, do you still want to leave? She's like, oh my God, I want to escape so badly. And I said, me too. Like, I'm at the house. I don't want to be here anymore. How do we go about this? She said, look, what are you doing now? I said, look, she's literally just sent me to get internet. And then I showed her where the internet shop was. She showed me where she lived. It was all very close. Like the streets in Syria, they're long, but there's a lot on them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
sure.
She lived there and the internet shop was on there, but like it's a long ass street. She said, come with me now. I said, I've got nothing. I have got nothing. I've just come to get internet. And she's like, well, I don't do much. I'm just literally in the park all the time. But however, I live here. I'll wait for you in the park, like, every day. And if I'm not here, I live there. So, like, I knew where it would be.
Okay.
Her husband was training as well. She was like, my husband's not at home. So, like, if her husband was there, I wouldn't have been allowed there.
Sure.
So I said, look, I don't know. Maybe she's going to send me to get internet. Maybe I'm going to jump over the wall. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will. Just give me a few days, right? I'll be back. After a few days, when the internet had run out, the Saudi Arabian woman, she was like, Britain, you need to go and get me internet. I was like, oh my God, yeah.
That was my chance.
I had our passports with us because they never took them off us. I don't know why. A lot of people ask, why did they not take your passports? I can't answer that question. A lot of people did their own little ceremony of burning their passports when they got there. So I don't know if they thought that they didn't have to, but I had my passports. Grabbed the passports, grabbed like the essentials, my phone, and met up with the woman from the Caribbean. Left the house, never ever went back to that house again, ever. Hid out in her house for like no more than 3 days, no more than.
I'm surprised they weren't looking for you.
Well, they were.
Okay.
They were, but they wouldn't have known where I was.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And the thing is, like, so I'll get into the escape, but just to get onto your I'm surprised I weren't looking for you kind of thing, I met up with the Caribbean woman in Turkey. So I escaped before her because she didn't have the courage to come with me. She was like, I'm going to see if you make it first. I was like, look, I'm not staying. They're going to kill me if they find me. I need to go. Escaped. Met up with her in Turkey. And she said, the day after you escaped, one like Indonesian woman that me and her knew of, Indiarabilis, that was at the house, kind of like we knew each other, came to my house looking for you. But they had sent her.
Ooh.
Yeah, literally, they had sent her from, because she used to live in the house in Raqqa with me. The Caribbean woman didn't. The Indonesian woman did. And she knew of like, oh, we used to be friends with her, or, you know, kind of clutching at like straws or whatever. And they went to her house
and
looked for me.
Is Raqqa dangerous at this point? Because are there being bombed?
There were a lot of bombs going off.
Wow.
That was another thing that was increasing. So that was why I was like, it's do or die. There's no perfect time to escape from ISIS-held territory in Syria.
No.
If you're waiting for your perfect time, you'll be waiting forever. So like that was on the increase as well. When I first got there, the coalition had hardly ever bombed, but they were ramping it up. And I was like, I don't want this to sound like, well, there's no way it can sound. There is a difference between like Bashar's bombs and the coalition's bombs. Bashar's bombs are very cheap. It's very, like, you know that bomb's coming. I'm not saying they didn't kill people. He killed a lot of people, a lot of carnage, but you can kind of like, oh, it's dropping there, probably shouldn't be, you know,
interesting.
like kind of get out of the way kind of thing.
Wow.
Well, maybe not avoid it like that, but you kind of like, you kind of have an idea. But the coalition's bomb, like they were like way more deadly, way more advanced, way more expensive, way more dangerous. Bombs are dangerous. Obviously, Bashar's bombs are dangerous, but these were way more like they dropped in silence. And there was one night where they bombed like 30 times, one after the other. That was harrowing.
Yeah.
That was I thought I was going to die that night.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm surprised they didn't target that big house, knowing that people were in there.
That was a place that they used to target. They used to target like training camps, houses. Maybe they didn't know that existed. I don't know. But yeah, it was never hit whilst I was there. Afterwards, I don't know.
I mean, I guess they probably knew you were there if your phone had ever been turned on in that place.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think they would have known I was there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because when I came back from Syria and I was being like interviewed by police and like all these other agencies, they said the fact that you escaped is miraculous. If your phone did not pinpoint to the fact that you were in Raqqa, if we could not trace your phone to being in Raqqa, we wouldn't believe that you were there. So I guess what you're saying,
yeah,
they knew I was there.
If your phone was ever on, whether you turned it on or they turned it on, they would have known where you were.
And then imagine them hitting the house like, we're going to get her.
Well, I don't think they would have tried to get you. I think they would have said, well, okay, this person escaped there. She's not a high-ranking ISIS member. Maybe this is where the foreigners are being held. I would imagine they would deliberately not target that particular place.
Do you think? I mean, yeah.
Knowing that you are potentially in there. I mean, it's not a really great military target if it's just a place where a bunch of people stay for a few days who escaped there. They eventually, you're more valuable back in the U.S. or in the U.K. Why does the FBI think you were married to an American jihadi when you were there? Yeah. Waiting for that one?
No, yes, because this, you know, right. So let's right. When I said I had a meeting with somebody, that's the guy.
Okay.
Right, and there was 2 meetings. I don't know if one of his family members has said to the FBI he was married to a girl. And
he did. He said it.
Well, what I've been told is that it was his family member that has said it, not him.
Oh, yeah, no, he told a journalist that he was married to a gal from the UK.
Yeah, but he didn't go on to say who it was. But then the journalist went on and did like research, and it was a family member of his that said that's who he's married to. Now, I had 2 meetings with this guy. You only ever have 1 meeting. I went back to the house and I said, look, I'm not here to get married, okay? I can't say that to them, but I don't want to marry him. So she's like, okay, whatever. Like, someone else will come along. Right, after a few days, they were like, the Americans come back for you. I was like, what? What are you, like, okay, you need to go meet with him again. So I went to meet with him, and he's like, look, there are some really like horrible guys here.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Like
I'm sure.
you will be safe with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should just marry me. Like you will like.
What a sales pitch!
Well,
I am the least worst ISIS fighter.
Essentially, that's what he was saying.
Bottom 10 worst.
Essentially, that's what he was. That's essentially what he was saying. But there were some really horrible men there. I mean, like I heard accounts from women that came back to the house that had been divorced and. Like, stuff that they had been through was, like, harrowing. And I think that's what he was trying to say. Like, look, there are some incredibly violent men here. Like, you could marry far worse than me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right, you never give your answer then and there.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, food for thought, whatever. Went back, I'll think about it. I'll think about it.
Thanks for coming
I'm
back.
not here to be married, but like at the same time, the pressure is on. So she said, the Saudi Arabian woman said, I'll give you a few days to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
She came back. I said, look, I don't want to marry him. And she said, what are you doing? Don't you see we're in the middle of war, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, find me someone else. But in that time, I had gone to get internet or whatever.
Right.
So there was this, I know the American guy. I met with him twice. And that's that.
Yeah. Well, he's not around anymore, so we'll never know.
No, yeah, he is. Yeah. I obviously knew that because of the journalist. I knew that he had come to pass. But I think he was married to a Syrian woman or something that they
did
had
marry someone else
and had
to him,
children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my encounter with him.
So tell me about your actual escape, because you were pretty close to getting caught, which is
right. So
terrifying.
I hid out at the woman's house, the Caribbean woman's house, for like I said, no more than 3 days. But in the meantime, we don't know where to go, how to go. You're not allowed to travel around Syria.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the ISIS fighters, they're not allowed to travel. You have to have permission. And as well, unmarried women are not, you're not just allowed to be walking around. No, of course, absolutely not. So she said that the guy in the internet shop at the other side of the street where she lived speaks really good English. She was like, he talks like you. Let's just go and let's not tell him that we want to escape, but let's just go and have a conversation with him and just try to draw out whatever information we can from him in a clever kind of way. Yeah. I said, okay, don't worry. Went to the internet cafe. The Syrian guy was there. I don't know why, but I looked at him and knew I could trust him. He had a very kind face. He spoke English like me. He wasn't English or British, but when you go to Arab countries or even other countries, people speak English with an accent. He spoke it fluently, with no accent.
So he was a foreign educated Syrian guy.
He must have studied outside of Syria, but I don't know. So I immediately resonated with him. I didn't straight away go in for the, I'm trying to escape kind of thing. So I can't remember. We just struck up a conversation with him about a landline. He had the only internet shop that had a landline, because all the other towers had been blown up. And I was like, right, I can speak to my mom, on the phone for the first time. That's the first time I spoke to my mom on the phone. Because WhatsApp then, I don't think you could make... No, you probably could make... I don't know what, but we only exchanged messages on WhatsApp, no phone calls. You probably could have exchanged phone calls on WhatsApp then, but I don't know. We just didn't. It was just messages, yeah? So I rang her, and... What was
that
like? I broke down crying. I was like, Mom, I want to come home. I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. Mom said, your dad's coming to get you out. Don't worry.
Oh, I think
said, he's going to get us killed.
Yeah.
My dad is the most outspoken, liberated. No ISIS fighter is telling my dad anything.
He thinks he's going to roll into Syria and be like, I'm taking my daughter.
He's going to fight them, literally. I said, listen, they will kill me. They'll kill everybody. Are you crazy? Mom's like, well, Dad said he's coming. There's nothing that you can do. He needs to come and save you. I said, listen, you do not understand that once you get here, every single person has to go, men, has to go under mandatory training for at least 3 weeks. So what is he going to do? Go and train with ISIS? You'll get bloody arrested. What? Are we all going to get arrested? Come on, let's not...
I mean, as a dad, I get it. The plan is to go undercover
literally.
And rescue your daughter, even if you have to join ISIS in the process.
But there's a lot of legal implications as well. And at the same time, Dad, you are not listening to anybody. He wouldn't care that it's an ISIS fighter. I know you probably think, Tareena, you're just saying that. No, it's the truth. He wouldn't care.
No, I have a 2-year-old daughter. I would do this for her.
Literally, he would have tried to fight them. Mm-hmm. So I was like, no, Mom, don't send Dad. I'll find a way. Anyway, desperate. Struck up a conversation with the Syrian guy about random other things. And like I said, I just knew that I could trust him. So I said, how do you travel around Syria? He said, well, mainly people go by bus, but you can't travel without a paper, and if you're not married, you can't travel. I just said to him, can you come with me and pretend to be like my uncle, my dad, because he was like older, like to say husband it would have looked a bit weird because I was like really young looking and he was like quite old looking. It would have been weird. And he said, he literally, I could tell by his face that he wanted to. He wanted to help. He said, sister, they will kill me and you both. Like, I can't. I want to help you, but I can't. He said, do you have any problems with Dola? Dola means the state. I said, no, there's no problems.
What?
Dola means the state. He said, do you have any problems with Dola? Like, are you in trouble with them? I said, no, I don't have, like, I just need to, like, go to Jarablus. I didn't say I was leaving. I said, I need to get to another point in Syria. No, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Okay, but you travel by bus. Yes, that's how we travel. Right. Got in a taxi to the bus station. Now, I have no idea where I'm going. The only reason I know where I'm going is because when I went in, if you remember, I said that there was like these ISIS fighters training as soon as I got in. But there was like a sign, and the name of that place was called Bab Lemon, and that in Arabic translates to English as the Door of Lemons. So I remember thinking, what a weird name for a place. It's like this little town is called the Door of Lemons. Stuck with me. I knew that place is where the border is because it's where I came. And I knew that there's a training camp there as well, yeah? So I just know I need to get to Bab Lemon because it's right close to the border and I'll be able to run across the border. That's my plan right now.
Wow. Well,
literally.
There are worse plans.
So I got to the bus station with the Caribbean woman, her daughter, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I need to get to Jarablus. I didn't say Bab Lemon because I didn't want to, hold on. There's nothing there. It's farmland and there's a training camp there. What are you doing there? So I said, look, I need to get to Jarablus, which was like close enough to Bab Lemon. And he said, look, buses are done for the day. Come back tomorrow. So we went back to her house, stayed there. And I remember saying to her, I said, look, after morning prayer, I'm going. Are you coming with me? She said, oh, I don't know. Remember, she's got her husband there. Literally, she's heavily pregnant with his first child, about to give birth. She's like, as well, she was scared. Of course she was scared. You know, come on. And she said, look, I don't want, let's go the day after tomorrow. I said, look, they're looking for me. They will kill me. I don't have the time like you have. I said, look, after Fajr, after morning prayer tomorrow, I'm going to the bus station. So I went without her. I prayed the morning prayer. I went out into the streets of Raqqa. It was probably 6 a.m. because the morning prayer time changes. It was probably 6 a.m. Flagged a taxi down. He took me to the bus station. And when I got there, I said, I'm going to Jarablus. The guy said, we have no direct buses to Jarablus. You need to change at Membij. Can I see your warak, your paper? I said, I don't have it. And he's like, oh, no, you're not allowed on the bus then. You need to go and speak to these two guys that were ISIS fighters sat in front of a big, massive black flag. But it was like a marketplace as well. The bus station was in a marketplace. So you're buying apples, bananas, all of these things. So I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I'm getting past these guys. But let me just try it.
Sure.
I don't know what I'm going to say, but I can't stop now. It's do or die. So I went up to the table and I said, look, I need to travel permission. And he said, no, you're not allowed to travel. Where's your husband? I said, he's in the training camp in Bab Lemon, right? Remember, I seen a training camp coming in. There's no husband that's training there. I just remembered that there was a training camp there.
Sure.
I said, I haven't seen him. What are you doing? Like, everyone else has been reunited with their husbands. I've been here for 8 weeks, 9 weeks, and I haven't seen him. Is he dead? I was just going for it. Like, what is going on here? Where is he? I need to find him. And I don't know why. This is throughout this story, there are things that happen that you will be like, Tareena, stop. Hand on heart, no lie, genuinely happened. The ISIS fighter was like, can you just go and get on the bus? Like, just go. He shooed me away. So I went and got on the bus. I was like, what? How did that happen?
Wow.
Literally. Fate, like God, hand of God.
So you mentioned bus drivers, taxis. Is ISIS doing like the security for the whole area, but there's just regular people who are stuck there now?
So there were Syrian people that lived there.
Oh, man.
So they had like Syrian ID. So they can like come and go because they're Syrian. you know? So,
Imagine being stuck there and you're just like, guess we're not in this secular dictatorship. Now we're in a theocracy that's just as crazy or
a
worse.
lot of the Syrian people were scared.
Yeah.
They didn't want to. They didn't stay because they loved ISIS or they wanted to do it. They stayed
Right.
because, like, where do we go?
Where
We're
do they go?
poor as hell. And, you know, like, they might not want to go and be refugees wherever. Do you
At
want to
least
be a
they're in their-
refugee?
right,
I don't want to be a refugee.
They're in their home. They got
Of
their
course,
business.
they're in their home. They got their little business. We don't trouble like ISIS. They don't trouble us. We pray. I might have to grow a beard. I don't mind doing that. I've got my little, you know, what? No one's going to harm me if I
Man.
just act normal.
Right.
But a lot of them, yeah, the love wasn't real from the heart. It was fake from the 100%.
For
And I don't
sure.
say that in a way like, oh, they give fake love. I said that in a way that's what I have observed. It was like we just put up with it, kind of thing.
Well,
yeah.
they're used to it, and I'm sure they don't love their
Well,
dictator
it's like
either.
Bashar al-Assad or these lot. It's like you choose
Yeah.
which one's worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But it's
What
kind
a terrible choice. Okay, so
Yeah.
they shoo you onto the bus.
yes.
Are there checkpoints and stuff?
Yes.
So how does that
So
work?
I knew there was going to be checkpoints because the guy from the internet cafe that I had asked to come with me said there's checkpoints. He said you're not going to make it through them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that now and I'm anticipating the first checkpoint. I see the first checkpoint in the distance. By the way, on the bus is just me and other Syrian people. And they said, one of the women said in Arabic, I can understand. Remember, my ex-husband's Yemeni. I understand Arabic
Oh yeah. Okay.
very well. Right. And they said, look, she's a muhajira, means a migrant. Look after her. Like, let's take care of her as much as we can. They never spoke to me. I just heard them say that about me. Anyway, we got to the checkpoint and I'm like, please, God, like praying, please, God, don't let it end now. Don't let it end now. Shaking. The ISIS fighter come onto the bus. All he did was just literally look around. He didn't ask to see anybody's paper. He didn't ask to see anybody's Syrian ID card. Nothing. He spoke for maybe 1 minute to the driver in Arabic. I don't even know what they were saying. I couldn't tell you. Got off the bus, let us go. And I'm like, oh my God. Alhamdulillah, thank God. Come to the next checkpoint. I'm like, please, God, please don't let it end here. Just guide me back to England. I'm sorry for whatever I've done. You know, making all of these prayers. I'll never do anything like this again. God, please, look, just save me. So we got to the second checkpoint. Same thing happened. Didn't ask to see anybody's papers. Just spoke to the driver in Arabic, whatever. Third checkpoint, he didn't even come on. They just said to the driver, keep going. I don't know if they had radioed on from the previous checkpoint. I don't know why, but they didn't stop us. We got to Membridge. When we were at Membridge, they said, there's not a bus that goes to Deradicalized. You need to get in a taxi. So they got me a taxi. I shared a taxi with these two other Syrian women that were on the bus with me. And they got off at, it was like a refugee camp somewhere near, on the outskirts of Membridge. And when they got out the taxi, I said to the taxi driver, I'm going to Deradicalized. And he said, I can't just drive with you like this. You can't just travel with an unmarried man and unmarried woman. So he drove to his house and got his wife and children.
Oh, because it's ISIS territory.
Well, yeah.
So he needs to keep up.
Well,
Sharia.
if someone stops us, you're alone with this. Come on, you're alone with this woman. It's like, when there's a dictatorship, it's like, prove your innocence. Throughout history, if you've ever seen a group like ISIS or dictatorship, they don't want to prove you innocent straight away. It's like they say something and that's what it is. No, you're alone with this woman, so you must be doing something wrong. It's not like, okay, we'll listen to your reasoning.
Right.
Instantly, something wrong, harsh, punishment. I think if we've seen that in history, I have. I love history,
sure.
look through it.
Sure.
They're not lenient people. So, yeah, got his wife and kids in the car and we drove. After a little while, I said, look, I'm going to Bab Limon. And he said, what are you doing there? Obviously, he knows it's desert land, everything like this. I said, look, there's a training camp there. My husband's there. I just need to find him. He didn't ask no questions. He was really I could see it in his face, but I said to him, I didn't spend none of the money I had with me. So I said, look, I'll give you, I don't know, it was like $50 or like $100. It's a lot of money to them. So I said, look, I'll give you double whatever you would normally charge. Just take me there, whatever. We drove through checkpoints. No one stopped. But I think there was only one checkpoint. We went down all these country lanes. After maybe an hour and a half of driving, he said, look, I've been driving without a purpose for like ages now. Soon we're going to come to the biggest checkpoint because we're near the border. I won't be able to go through this checkpoint. You can't just pass through here. You need to tell me where I'm going. I said, okay, just drive for a little bit. Had no idea what to do now. So I'm praying. I'm like, please God, don't let it end here. Again, another one of them things where it's like, Tareena, are you lying or are you telling the truth? Hand on heart, not lying. His wife said in Arabic, randomly to him, oh yeah, there's Turkey. So I heard her, like, but it was like, distant. Like, have I really heard that? So I said to her, what did you just say? She said, oh yeah, that's Turkey right there, where them trees are. It's not Syria anymore. So I said, stop the car. He stopped his car. I grabbed whatever I had, threw the money on the back seat, and he sped off to the point where you could see the debris, mud splattering.
Yeah, he's gunning it out of there.
He knew what's going on. So
he didn't want to get caught having dropped you
and you know
off.
what? I really shouldn't have. I shouldn't have put him in that situation. But what else could I have done? What else could I don't know what else I should have done. But he would have been in major trouble. Major trouble. He would, and look, he risked it all for no more than $100 American or whatever.
Or he probably also realized that you were escaping. I would.
No, he knew, but why he didn't want to help me for the purpose of look. This stranger, do I help her or I'm going to die? No, the money would have had an influence as well. Of course it would have, you know.
He had a kid with you too.
Oh, he knew. For sure he knew that, look, this girl's not going to this training camp or whatever. Why did he go and get his wife and kids? He knew something was going on. Look, he helped me. It is what it is. Thank him forever. Got out, stood there to the left of me. I don't want to say a few 100 yards, as it were. There's 3 ISIS fighters there, all with their back to me, arguing with each other. And I'm like, no, is this where, no, this can't be where it ends. I just ran. To the place where the trees were. And as I got to the border, it's kind of barbed wire with mud on top of kind of thing. It wasn't like the deserted land when I came in. It was a different part. So again, another miracle is at that precise moment, a jeep full of Turkish soldiers drove past and I was like, oh, help! They seen me. So they got out the car. They originally thought that I was Syrian because they were like, go back. We don't want you here. You can't come here. I said, no, I am British. And I showed them my passport and he could see, obviously, United Kingdom or whatever. He didn't ask no questions. He just put his arms out and I passed him my son. Then the other one grabbed me over.
Oh man, you must have breathed a sigh of relief.
Well. When we were there, the first thing I did was I turned around and looked at the fighters. They hadn't even budged. They were still arguing. And I said to the Turkish soldier, I said, if he shoots from there, can he hit me? Because as I'm running, I'm thinking with every footstep, maybe I'm out of his range of shot, or with every step I'm further away from him. That's my rationale. So I said to him, look, if he shoots me, will he hit me? He said, they're not going to shoot. Are you crazy? If they're not that brave. If he shoots, we'll shoot him back.
Right.
And he said to me, look, you're safe now. You're safe. He just kept saying to me, you're safe. Breathe. And I remember it so clearly. I was panting like a dog. I was like... He said, no, calm down, you're safe. No one can hurt you now. And I just started crying uncontrollably. I couldn't believe I had made it. Everything was going through my head. I'm going to get to see my family. Oh my God, I'm safe. I made it. It was happy is not the word. I don't have the word. I was in another world of happiness.
They bring you to what, a detention center?
Yes.
Or is it is it like a prison? What is that place like?
It's a detention center that's kind of not big enough to be a prison, but like a police station.
Okay.
If you think of it like that. Where me and other people were detained. I was the only person there that was caught coming back from Syria. Everyone else was caught going to Syria. Yeah. So they got caught trying to escape to Syria.
Did you tell them, hey...
I'm so glad you asked me that question because I did. I cannot remember what country they were from. What country was she? India? They were Indian, but spoke brilliant English like myself, yeah?
Sure.
So I'm like, look, you've been saved. Like, because they were like, woe is me. I said, you've been saved. You should thank God. They were like, you're wrong. I said, how can you argue with me? You
Yeah, I was
haven't been there. I was there. And there was a woman from Uzbekistan as well I had the same conversation with. She was like, sister, you're crazy. We would have died to be there, and you came back. I said to her, you are crazy because you want to go there. You're not listening to me, I'm telling you. Like, thank God that you got caught here. Just thank God.
Yeah.
She said, no, we can change the things there. I said, you're not changing nothing, please.
No.
Like, well, you're deluded. Come on, sister, stop it.
Right.
So, but they looked at me like I was crazy.
Man, because were they also recruited by somebody online, essentially?
Again, a lot of people had family there.
I see. Right,
Very rare that there was people like myself. So they had the Uzbekistani woman. She had like brothers over there or something like that, and the Indian family. I can't remember, but people were.
Wow. So what was this place? You're in this for how long in the detention center?
I think 6 weeks.
Wow, that's quite a.
It's a really long time. Yeah, I was going out of my mind there.
I bet. But you were safe at least.
Yeah, safe. Hopefully coming back to England. It was never like 100% that I was ever going to be allowed back here. They obviously did their checks, whatever it is that they had to do.
I see. So they fly you back on the plane to the UK. At this point, are you thinking, okay, I'm going home and I'll be arrested at some point, but it was better than dying in a bombing in Syria? Or did you think like, oh, I'm going to put all this behind me and just join my regular life?
Whilst being in Syria, like there were police liaison officers that worked with my family very closely. And every single time they would say, when you speak to Tareena, tell her that it's not too late if she wants to come home. We just want her back safe. She's not in any trouble when she comes back. We just want to talk to her, blah, 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 whatever.
Okay.
Now, I am not the first person to come back from Syria or the last, but I was the first to be put in prison. Woman. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had no reason to doubt that. Like, okay, it's a police officer. She's saying I'm going to be okay. So I'm like getting deported. Yeah, I guess of course I'm going to be spoken to. But I didn't know I was in as much trouble as I was just because it was said, look, we just want to speak to you. You're not in any trouble. We just want to know what you might have seen out there. We just want to know all of these kind of things. So I thought that I could get to move on with my life.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, put this behind me. Let's just move on now. That I had no idea that what was going to happen happened.
So you get arrested and then you tell the police at the airport that what did you tell the police at the airport? That you got kidnapped or something like that?
No, I said I was trafficked into Syria.
I see, okay.
That I met these people on the beach and it was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I should not have done that. The reason I did that is because, look, obviously they removed my child from me. He was placed with strangers not with family, yeah?
Oh, really? They didn't let your parents come get him?
My parents didn't let his dad, none of them. He was placed with strangers. So I was telling these lies with the hope of, look, we can get him back. I've never been in trouble before with the police. I've never been like anything like that. I don't know how this works. We've never been involved with like social services, we call them over here, child protection. It's kind of, they're going to let him come home. So I lied like that, thinking if I was to say that I went over to Syria, they're going to think she's crazy. They'll never let me get him back. So I lied for that purpose, which I know it's not. That's just why I lied.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. And the trial does not go in your favor, right? The judge had some choice words. I mean, he or she was, I couldn't read the whole public record.
What did he say?
I don't have all the I didn't transcribe it. But
I don't think he was like, look, there are mitigating factors and there are aggravating factors, as it were. There were obviously, look, I ran away to Syria. There's a lot of aggravating things. But, he was very accepting of the fact that, look, this girl has been through horrendous domestic violence. This girl while it doesn't excuse what she did, and I'm not saying that does excuse, it's an explanation rather than an excuse. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. The jury just thought, okay, well, she did this willingly.
Look,
she did.
The whole thing was played out in the media. The trial was the last little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like, we've got the eyes of the world on this trial. What do we do with people who run away to Syria?
No, they made an example out of you for sure.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there was like 50 women that had been come back before me that hadn't been put in prison and all of that. And it was, it was a lot to do with the media or whatever. But look, I did run away to Syria. That's the fact. So
what's with all the, not just you, but there's a lot of gun photos. It's like, here's a selfie with an AK-47. That's like an ISIS thing. What are they doing with that? Is that just like,
I think it's when you're from a country that like we wouldn't get an AK-47 here. Like you would never. It's like no, you're not allowed guns in this country. So if you've seen a gun, it's like, yeah, should we be cool and pose with a gun? I know that's stupid, but it's kind of like, that's the first thing people want to do over there when they see an AK-47, because you're not seeing one of them in France. So it's like, yeah, let me just take a cool picture with it. Which is, I know.
Yeah, it didn't look good. The jury did not think that photo was as cool.
I hate them photos. They're not cool. No, but them pictures, right? Okay, I didn't send them anywhere. The reason that they're in the thing is because they were on the phone, and I know, look, it's all to do with the environment that we were living in. That was what we were living in, and that was what was around us. Look, have I ever taken a picture with an AK-47 before? Absolutely not.
No, I appreciate your candor.
Absolutely not. You know, it's just, look, that's what it was.
I do appreciate your candor. It's definitely like, I can just imagine you being like, oh God, why did I take those photos?
Absolutely. The worst one is the one with the balaclava on.
Oh, yeah.
Why? What?
Well, you were, when in
Rome.
Raqqa, when in Rome, do as ISIS does. I mean, that was just...
No, that's the one that I feel sick when I see that picture.
I'm sure you do.
Don't use it in this podcast.
I will
You
not.
will. No, you can if you want. It is what it is. Look, it's out there in the public domain. It is what it is.
I might for the YouTube version.
Yeah, do it.
Most of my audience is audio only.
Okay.
Only like 1% is YouTube. So only 1% will see the balaclava.
I hate that. And I always think to myself, maybe one day I'm going to get them pictures removed, but you can't. They're in the public domain.
Those aren't going anywhere.
Oh, I hate it. Hate it. And every now and then when someone wants to troll me, they'll like send that picture to me and I'm like, yeah, you've hurt me more than swearing at me by sending that picture.
Yeah, well, there's one Halloween costume you can never wear.
Disgusting. Literally, no, we're not doing that again.
Yeah,
never.
you'll end up back in prison.
Never.
So you served 3 years of a 6-year sentence, and during the time you're going through this, what sounds like a great idea, it's like a deradicalization program. What did the program help you? Like, what was that? What was that all about?
So at first, I was like, I don't need none of this. I know why I ran away. It was because my ex-husband. I kind of like just went along with it. But after like the first few sessions, for me, it was therapy. Because you speak about every last thing.
Yeah.
From childhood to like the domestic violence thing that's happened. Every last thing you get to speak about it because they unpick it. Yeah, they get to the root of it. I understood things in their entirety. I understood like, oh, hold on, this happened because of that. Because there's loads of reasons why people are groomed. Like when you've been groomed, you don't think, yes, I've been groomed. You don't know about that. I know a lot about it now because that's my area of interest. But at the time, they come out with these phrases, when you go through psychology, like us and them ideology and like secluded people. Well, you don't know that that's a real thing. So it gives you a great understanding of, oh, actually, this is what happened to me. That's very useful in terms of moving forward with life, because how do you know it couldn't happen? How do you know you couldn't be groomed again? I couldn't, but like, how does someone know that couldn't happen? It makes you very aware. It's like whilst being in prison, I went through like domestic violence like programs that teaches you all about perpetrators of domestic violence, and you learn things, and it's like, oh, okay, that's why that happens. And then like there's loads of different figures, like the dominator, the this, the that, and you understand it.
Yeah.
It gave me a great understanding of it.
Did you at one point go, oh, I was actually radicalized and I just didn't realize it?
So I said the first time I realized I was groomed was when like one of my legal team said, look, he's like responsible for over 300 people running away to Syria. So that was the first time like this grooming thing started to become like a, okay, idea. But look, this whole thing sowed like really deep seeds of like, you're going to go to hell if you live in England. Like that stuff was deeply planted in me. It wasn't till I was in prison one day, and I used to go to like the Islamic classes, and because I never left my faith or anything like that, we went to the Islamic classes, and there was an imam there who was a great guy, lovely guy. I got on really well with him. And we're just talking like we'd learned the Quran, and I loved it because I'm like, right, I'm learning it properly. Like, this is what this actually means. I really loved it there. And we come to talk about like going to hell or something. And I said to him, I already know I'm going to hell. And he's like, Tareena, come on, subhanAllah, we don't like, it's haram. We don't say them. We don't know who's God's going to send to hell. We don't say them things. I said, no, I am going to hell. And he said, how do you know that? How can you be so sure? And I said, anyone who migrates for the sake of Islam, but then goes back, like God is at war with that person. So I know I'm going to hell. And he literally just put his head on the floor. He had tears in his eyes. He was like, do you genuinely believe that? I said, yeah, that's what's going to happen. He said, no, Tareena, that's not what happens. And after that, he kept me really under his wing and was like, right, Tareena, we're going to just tell me what else it is that you believe. I'll go through the ayat of Quran, like the verses of the Quran. We'll speak about it. I'll speak about this hadith. He really looked after me, bless him, because that really, like, it upset him. He had tears in his eyes.
Well, yeah, sure.
So that was an amazing thing. I learned a lot through him in prison as well. So, yeah, there's some things that are sewn really deep that, like, it took a long time to unpick, as it were.
I can imagine. There was a lot to unpack, as we say. Yeah, so some people right now probably think, and I don't agree with this, just for the record, they probably think, oh, she's still a terrorist sympathizer at some level. What do you say to those people? Because it's got to be, well, first of all, do you understand their perspective? Like, yeah, I ran off and joined ISIS.
Of course, I totally understand why people would think that. It's like, come on, you made that decision, you still believe that, you came back. You know, I get it.
Yeah.
100%, I totally get it. And I understand that, like, when you hear the story and someone says, well, I ran away because I was a victim of domestic violence, I understand that people would be like, well, yeah, you don't run away to Syria. I get that.
Yeah.
I get it.
Someone's going, hey, I was a victim of domestic violence. You know what I did? I spent too much time on social media.
I understand that.
I didn't join ISIS.
I agree with that. I understand that. But look, we all break differently. We all break differently. And that was how I broke. That's the only explanation I have for that. But with regards to them saying, look, she's a terrorist, sympathizer, blah, blah, whatever, like, I put myself on the line every single time to raise awareness about this. I get nothing from that other than,
well, you get something from it. It's just nothing good.
Well, yeah, but no, like, yeah. I don't get paid, like, a lot of money for that. I don't get paid money. I don't get, like, I do it because I want to help, to raise awareness. Nobody is like you. I don't work for the government. I do this all of myself.
Yeah.
I put myself on the line. I get some vile, nasty messages from people. As you can understand,
who
cares?
Well,
who cares? Whatever. Like, it is what it is.
You get negative comments on YouTube.
Negative comments on YouTube. But, like, I do that. Put myself out there, which is not easy to do. Like, some of the messages I get, like, have made my heart stop at times. So, like, why would a person want to do that? Like, when I get nothing from it, like, other than the fact that they want to help. I don't enjoy receiving the nasty messages. I don't enjoy a random person saying, hey, you should hang yourself. Like, I do this. I put that to the side because I want to help people. Why? Because, look, I have been to hell and back, yeah? And I had the strength to pull myself back up because I have a great family. I have a great faith. I was able to. There are girls that have killed themselves that couldn't make it through this, yeah? If I can stop just one person, it will never be worth it, but me speaking out is worth it because other people are not as strong as I am. I get messages from people who are like, Tareena, I am the mother of a 12, 13-year-old. Thank you so much for speaking out because, look, I didn't know about grooming like that. Yeah. Now I'm going to start paying more attention because obviously, look, we're living in a climate where the world is in a crazy place right now, should we say, right? And they're very divided, should we say. And they're like, look, I need to keep an eye on what's going on my 13-year-old's iPad. Thank you for speaking out. So that's why I do it. If people are always going to say, look, she's still this, blah, blah, blah. I escaped of my own free will. Nobody brought me back kicking and screaming. So why would she do that when she knows that they would kill her? If at one point I was faced with the decision of, I either get caught by Bashar al-Assad or I get caught by ISIS. If I get caught by Bashar al-Assad, I'm not even going to say here what he would have done to me, yeah? Let's not go down that route because I don't want to think of that. I get caught by ISIS. Okay, they'll probably kill me in a less torturous... Look, I'm making this, like, summing this up in my head. You don't do that if you still support. You'd think, right, well, I'm going to die here with them and go straight to heaven. You would, of course. But yeah, people are always going to say that and think that. There's nothing I can do about that.
That's true.
You know?
Are you worried that ISIS might be encouraging people to leave the UK, training them, and then have them come back to the UK as like diehard terrorists? Because some people are afraid of that. I don't know how
Um,
much. I don't know how active ISIS is these days, and I know they're still around.
I mean, look, it'd be really hard for people to get back into like the UK or whatever, because presumably then people have been out of the UK for a long time. So like you'd come, you have to answer questions, things like
That's
that.
true.
I seen on the news yesterday that like ISIS is responsible for an attack in Afghanistan on some Spanish tourists. It's still a problem that's really there. I think with regards to the threat that Western countries are at, it would be more someone being inspired by online grooming rather than ISIS sending people back. I think it's a lot more difficult to send people back. Definitely a lot more difficult to send people back who've been trained than inspiring someone via their iPad.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
So that's the biggest threat, which is why, again, I do the whole raising awareness around online safety, because it's online. Most of the, what do we say, recruiting, radicalization, whatever, it's mostly online.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. That does make sense. Has it been hard for you to find jobs? Because I would imagine having gone to join ISIS is not a good thing to have show up in a background check from an employer.
It's really not. I found, look, while I was working at a place, I did my ITV documentary. They said, look, a few of the people feel uncomfortable with you working here. That's fine. I'll leave. I get it. I was working at, like, I won't go into it, like, what I was doing. I was just working at a place. And they were like, look, a few people have seen your documentary, whatever. They don't, they didn't feel comfortable with you working here.
I see. Okay.
So I said, okay, that's fine. I can leave. But then I've worked for people who are like, so when I did the ITV documentary, I had 2 jobs. I had a morning one and an evening one. So I was really like hard working at that time. And the evening job, I said to the guy, just before the documentary came out, I said, look, there's going to be a documentary with me on it. I just need to tell you it's about this. But that's the first time I told him about the whole ISIS Syria thing. I said, I'll leave right now if you want me to. He said, you're not going anywhere. Don't be stupid. I said, look, I don't want to work here anymore. I feel like shy. He said, no, take a week off. Let the documentary come on, because I gave him pre-warning.
Yeah.
But just take a week off. That's it.
Yeah.
After the documentary had been on, the day before I was supposed to go back to work, I rang him and I said, look, I'm not coming back. And he was like, are you mad? Get yourself back here right now. Like, it's not going to happen. Because I had that understanding with him. He knows, look, that's not you, Tareena. You're a good girl. You know, I'll give you that chance. So, yeah, obviously.
That must have felt good, though.
It did. He's really supported me, bless him. Really, really supported me. So, yeah.
There must have been so much fallout from that documentary coming to, because your family, I mean, surely the phone was ringing off the hook. Your daughter joined ISIS?
Oh, no, it was known because of the whole media thing, you see. So, like, everyone knew.
The girl of ISIS, how could I forget?
Yeah, everyone knew.
So that was already, but then it became, like, national
and
news once again.
I think I just got, like, messages from strangers. That's where that started. Before that, I hadn't had messages from strangers.
We answered my message. I was surprised. I was like, she's probably not checking her DMs. Wow. How do you rebuild your life after something like this? I mean, one step at a time is the only strategy.
I have always found that being realistic and just being real works. Look, you have to be honest about it. There's no point being defensive and like, well, no, it didn't happen because of that, and it's not really my fault. Look, you don't get anywhere like that. Be real about it. Yes, I effed it up majorly. I did. I'm sorry about that. I can't change that. Look, if Elon Musk was to create a time machine, I would be first in queue if I had the money to use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would be the first, but there isn't, and that's wishful thinking. So what do?
Yeah.
What we do is we work with what we've got and make the best of the situation. I effed up more than most people do, yeah? Messed up. But is that going to destroy me? No, I've been through major depression. I suffer from PTSD. I suffer from anxiety. Now, do I let that win me or do I win it? No, I win it.
I'm sure you get asked about this all the time. The case of Shamima Begum. I'm probably getting her name terribly wrong. She's another British woman who traveled to join ISIS. And I want to say, there's a lot of public debate about whether she should be allowed to return to the UK. And I think she had dual citizenship, UK, Bangladesh, possibly.
I think Yeah, she's
something like that.
Bengali, isn't she? Like, that's her ethnicity, but I don't think she's never been to
I see.
Bangladesh.
Well, somehow her UK
Yeah.
citizenship, I think, was revoked.
Yeah, it was revoked.
And she's like basically in a Syrian refugee camp with children that she had with an ISIS fighter. I'm curious what your take is. You were allowed to return here.
Yeah.
I know you don't know her, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious what you think. Do we rehabilitate people like that? Do we bring people like that back into society? Because it's tough. I mean, it almost seems like a fair shake is she goes to prison like you did, goes through de-radicalization like you did. But man, the court of public opinion is really hard on people like this.
Right. So, look, I can't sit here and say, don't let her come home. That would be hypocritical of me because I was allowed to come home, right? I believe in redemption. I believe in second chances. I believe in rehabilitation, provided that the person wants it. Now you don't know what someone's thinking. You can't tell what's in someone's mind. You don't know that if they come home, the streets are going to be safe. I'm sure they will forever be a question mark over my head. How do we know that she isn't going to do something? So the problem with people coming home is what can be proven in a court of law. So there might not be enough to prosecute her. And if there isn't, like, she wouldn't go to prison. She'd just be out and about. And I think that's because I have had conversations with people who work around that. And I'm like, look, how come they don't let her come back? Like, I'm interested in it. And I think the general thing is it would be hard to prove it in a court of law because they don't know what evidence there is on her. Like, they had my phone. So look, Tareena Shakil, you're in court with being a member of ISIS or whatever, a prescribed organisation. Are we going to get a guilty charge? Well, look, we've got pictures of her with an AK. Yes, we are going to get it. So they were secure in the fact that I was going to prison.
Good thing you took all those photos.
Well, do you know, it probably did save me in some sense. So and we have had a situation in England where there was an individual that claimed to be rehabilitated, had gone down the deradicalization program, was at I think it was a university campus, giving a de-radicalization speech to an audience that went on to commit a terrorist attack.
Yeah,
and like
the knife attack guy.
Yeah, and stab like loads of people. Since then, like, there's just no tolerance with regards to that. I mean, there's no tolerance anyway, but like, it's like, no.
Well, now it's
like a lot harder.
Work at
Absolutely.
all? Right.
And it's like, look, we don't know what her intentions are. So the answer to your question is, I would like to believe that everyone has the chance, a second chance, provided that they want that and that she just wants to come home and get on with her life. But how do you know that that's what she does want to do? It's tricky. It's I always look at her situation and I think to myself, God, like, that could have been me. And I'm so thankful that it's not. And I do get, like, I've read in comment sections before where people have said, well, how come she was allowed, but Shamima's not? And, people say all kinds of crazy things. And it's like, yeah, well, then she shouldn't have been allowed back. But look, if we go down that line of arguing, I could then sit here and say, well, am I the only one out of 50 women that went to prison? Like, we don't go down that route. Why is it? I wasn't the first woman to come back and I wasn't the last, but I was the only one to be put in prison. So, I could argue about that, but I don't because I'm realistic. Okay, they never went to prison. It's fine. But I did. I'm consumed with myself. I live my life. They didn't go to prison. That's on them. That's their business. So, yeah, people do go down that whole, why was she allowed back and she's not? And it's because her family are Christian and she's white. And I read all these crazy things about myself. She's not even Muslim. She's really a government spy. I get that all the time. I get that.
That's YouTube for you.
I get that all the time. Like, I get messages from people saying, I don't believe you. Like, you're a great actress. You're a liar. You were never in Syria. Oh, my God.
Well, then why did I go to jail?
Are you serious? Literally, like, so many people say that. It's not real. Okay, I wish. Thank you.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean,
but I think with that, what it is that, like, I'm not what people expect. They don't expect to see that. And then I'll get messages from people who, like, pro-ISIS, and they'll be like, no, you're not that girl. Like, you're ashamed. Like, now, look at, oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if we can care what the pro-ISIS crowd thinks of us, eh?
Well, it's not about caring. It's just, like, from anyone, it's a nasty message, right? And you take it on a little bit. So it's,
That's true. Although there are some folks you can write off, and it's usually, I think pro-ISIS is probably towards the top of the list. Your start to radicalization, it sort of began with you looking at the cause of the Palestinians and things like that online. Are you at all worried now? There's another Gaza conflict. There might be thousands more Tareenas out there who are like with good intentions. They want to support the cause, and then they end up making a sharp turn. And I'm not saying the Palestinian cause is going to do that. I'm just saying when people are vulnerable and sympathizing with causes that are just like this, it seems like it's just a gold mine for a recruiter.
Yeah,
what's going on in
it's
Palestine
definitely
right
a
now.
dangerous. It's definitely a dangerous time. I think I said before, like we live in a time where there is huge division, and part of like the grooming process is us and them. That's a tactic. You know, if you learn about grooming, like I said, I learned through it via psychology in the DRAD program. One of the tactics is us and them. So like we're living in division now. So it is a dangerous time for vulnerable people because we're living in that climate. So yeah, I think that's why I probably make a lot more videos and do a lot more interviews, because like it's relevant for now. It's always relevant, but it's like, right, this message is needed right now kind of thing. It always happens. In COVID, I think in England, like the cases of referrals for Prevent went up by like 30% during COVID because a lot of people were at home. So it might not be talked about a lot because it might not be in the news, but in the background, people who work in this area know about it. It's still a big problem. So regardless of what's happening in Gaza, Palestine right now, it's still a major issue. But something like that does, of course, it increases it because we're living in times of division.
I can understand that. I'm so curious if we're going to see, and we won't know for another few years. Oh, did we end up with tons more youth getting radicalized because of this? It seems like it's starting to look like that now. Just right now, those people might be protesting, but in a year, do we find them in Afghanistan or Syria or something like that? I guess time will tell. Do you worry that what you did at that time gives other British Muslims a bad name? I saw a lot of comments to that effect. And
what did you see?
Oh, just
Tell
people
me.
saying, as a British
Oh,
Muslim,
we don't claim her.
Yeah, we don't claim
her.
Well,
you don't claim me.
You're giving
I claim
us all
myself.
a bad name.
No, I'm not giving you a. Yeah, what I did. But so here's the thing: if you go onto my TikTok page, you will see that I make a lot of videos about Islam, stories from Islam, praying, blah blah blah. Right? Why do I do that? Because I feel major guilt that I have contributed towards this religion being viewed in a negative way.
Yeah, sure.
I contributed to that. Like, look, Muslims have lived with being called terrorists forever. And they are not. It's not a religion of terrorism. But then it's like, well, then you have groups like ISIS and the Taliban. How can you not be? And it's like, look, guys, we really aren't that. Come on, like, give us a break. Yes, there are extremists in every group, and yes, maybe in Islam they're probably a little bit more, but look, that's not what we are, guys. Like, we've been fighting this for a long time, that we're not terrorists or whatever. That's rich coming from me, like with my conviction, or, and you know, I get that.
True. That's funny.
So that's why I make the TikToks, because I'm like, look, this is not Islam is not that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful religion. It's amazing, and I feel horrendous that I have contributed to the negative view of Islam, and that my name is associated with something that is horrendous. You know, probably one of the most violent groups that the world would ever see. I feel major guilt for that, spiritually and physically. So yeah, I do. I feel guilty about that. 100%.
You ever wish you'd just gone to the beach in Turkey and turned around and came home?
Every single day of my life. I'll share a little funny story here quickly. So my mum's sister, bless her, they've never really pushed me that much. Like I said, they are not Muslims. Muslims understand it a bit more just because of the whole concept of hijrah and not living under Sharia. They get it a little bit more. Whilst they don't love ISIS, we're familiar with them concepts, yeah? But to explain to someone who's not a Muslim, it's like, oh my God, you're not getting it at all. Muslims get it a little bit. So I was like, look, you're not going to understand why I did it. But I was going through domestic violence and the other, and she literally turned around and said, well, you could have just gone and stayed at Nan's, at like Grandma's. I was like, oh no. Well, I could have, but I could have, but you know, I didn't. I wish I did have gone and stayed at Granny's. You know, there's a spare room there. Yeah, there is, but I didn't. Unfortunately, this was what happened. And I think, look, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. Like, I think
Nobody listening believes that, by the way. That's the one thing, is they're
Really?
thinking, you must be the most naive person on planet Earth. This would
Really?
never happen to me. I think most people think this would never happen to me.
Well, they probably would think that, but look, unless you've been in somebody's shoes,
I'm not saying that it can't happen to anyone. I'm saying nobody believes it until
they probably
running
don't.
over
But
the farmland into Syria, ISIS-controlled
of course,
Syria.
look, if it can happen to someone like myself that was raised like so liberally, and like, even if you could do the most intense research into my background, there is nothing extremist before at all, and since, nothing at all. So where does the problem lie? One doesn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to go and live in a war-torn country and I'm going to go and live with ISIS. It doesn't happen. There is the process, and the process is the grooming process. Now, people can say that wouldn't have happened to me. The proof is in the pudding. There was nothing before, and there's been nothing since, and there would never be anything ever again. So, right, so the time frame is this. So what was going wrong in that time frame? Oh, okay, so she was married, right? Oh, she was going through domestic violence. Oh, this was happening. Like, it can be proven, if that makes sense,
Sure.
just from looking at my life. So, yeah, people are entitled to their opinion. If you've never been through domestic violence, you would probably say, look, the first time my husband slapped me, I'd walk away. You can't say that unless you've been through it. Yeah, you do. I have had close family members go through domestic violence when I was a kid. And I used to say, if my husband ever slapped me, I will leave straight away. I didn't. So, it's one of them. It's one of them. Until you're in what do they say? Unless you're in somebody's shoes, don't. Like,
yep.
What? You can't walk it. What is it? What's the saying?
I don't know. I was waiting for you to say it, because I don't know.
Don't judge don't judge the book by the cover. Well, like, you couldn't walk a mile in my shoes, or whatever it is. I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, that's a great ending right there. Just us stumbling over this
Stumbling
cliche that we should
absolutely.
both know. Thank you very much. Are we going to end right there? That's such
Let's
an awkward ending. My God. Should we end it right there?
Let's end it, because I can talk for England and you're on limited time.
Talk for England. I've never heard that one.
Have you not heard that one? That's a great saying. Talk for England.
It is. I wonder if I can say it as an American.
Talk
Does that
for
make
America.
any sense? Talk for America doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so how is the situation? I'm going to ask you a question, if you
Sure.
don't mind. So, right, there are people like myself that have come back to America. I watched a documentary on one person. We don't need to name them or whatever.
Okay.
But in America, what is the general opinion of that? Is it like, no, she should be back over there, we hate her?
Ooh,
she needs to.
That's a good question. I don't know who you're referring to.
But there must be people, though, that have come back, right? That you know
I'm
of.
sure that there are. I'm
but
sure
you
that
don't know
there
of
are.
them.
I don't know.
Oh.
But I'm going to guess that most people say, well, if you left us to go there, then you should stay over there.
Yes. Yeah,
However,
I get that a lot.
if you know who the person is, and if they were freaking 15 years old, like Shamima Begum was when she went there.
I didn't think she was, but yeah.
Yeah, she was young.
No, I mean the person I'm talking about, the American person wasn't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it depends. If you go over there when you're 30, I think it's most reasonable people would view it differently than if you go over there when you're 19 or 18 years old.
Can I just touch on that?
Sure.
So I get a lot of messages like that say, you weren't groomed, you were 25 years old. At least Shamima was a kid. Right. People get groomed in their 90s and 80s. There are old people that get groomed to signing people into their wills.
Yeah,
there are people that, literally, like, they're falling in love with their carer. I watched a documentary last week. Grooming has no age limit on it, nor is it selective by your intelligence. I've had that said to me before. You're incredibly intelligent, Tareena. It couldn't happen to you. It's not a matter of intelligence.
I will say, I definitely expected to encounter one of the, let's just say, not the brightest bulb in the box. I was like, how does this happen? This person is going to come in here and I'm going to have to wipe the drool off the floor after the conversation. But you are markedly more switched on than I would have expected from somebody who ran off and joined ISIS. Well, now I'm like, well, what's the problem?
What's the real reason, Tareena? But yeah, no, I think that as well. Like, it can happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not selective of age. It's not selective by intelligence. Look, it's vulnerability. We go through stuff, right? And when we go through stuff, we do things that are crazy.
It's about being vulnerable.
It's about being vulnerable. That is the main thing. People get groomed for whatever reason. People get groomed. I mean, in England, I think a while back, there was a big problem with, like, youngsters being groomed to sell drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, do they not know that that's illegal? Well, yeah, of course they know that selling drugs is illegal. But, like, do you understand what grooming is?
Mm-hmm.
Grooming is when you might have that, like, fear, like, oh, I can't just walk down the street with drugs, I'll get arrested. But the groomer's there to counteract that. No, you won't get arrested. You'll be fine. We've got you covered. And if you get arrested, don't worry, we'll come and get you. That's grooming.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that get groomed that are, like, God knows what age, get groomed into transporting drugs.
Mhm.
It's not an age thing. It's the groomer. Like,
Yeah, it's about being vulnerable and isolated
Absolutely.
enough
There
to
we
fall
go.
for it. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your
Thank you for
candor.
having me.
Really good conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking out this entire episode on YouTube. If you want to follow up on this topic, check out our podcast feed or visit us on our website at jordanharbinger.com, where you can learn more about our guest and dive even deeper into what we discussed today. And remember, YouTube only has about a quarter of the episodes that we release here on the Jordan Harbinger Show audio feed. Any podcast app should have us. Check out the links in the description where you'll find access to all of our shows that don't appear on YouTube, such as Skeptical Sunday, where we debunk topics like crystal healing, GMOs, conspiracy theories, homeopathy, tipping, and even lawns to find out if they're backed by science and or logic. Also, our Feedback Friday episodes where we help people escape from cults, get raises at work, and take all manner of questions from you, the audience, and some of that stuff is dicey. Every episode of the Jordan Harbinger Show has something useful that you can take away and apply in your own life and help you navigate what I know can often seem like the overwhelming and paralyzing challenges of modern life. Thank you for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe.